speaking out of Akron, Ohio, representing Team Popping the Boys, the headline god, Jeremy Lambert, and his co-host, speaking out of Atlanta, Georgia, representing more than one royal family, the king of indie viewing, Stephen Jensen. And this is the Spotlight on Fightful.
Welcome, everyone, to the Spotlight here on Fightful. I'm Jeremy Lambert. That is Stephen Jensen. And it is Thursday, October 17th. And shout out to Big Dick MLJ, as always, for the intro. We got a lot to talk about, as always, in the world of professional wrestling. But first, Jensen, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good. Minnesota Vikings had a bye this week, this past week, so not a whole lot of football talk for me to get into. So good for most of y'all who don't care about football here in the chat and that watch this show. But I'm looking forward to them coming back this week. So and then I've got a whole week off of work coming up. Took another week off and go to the casino for a couple days, and we got some plans for the show next week for y'all. We're planning to have Maggie on live. Maggie's in the chat. Good morning, Maggie. Good afternoon where you're at. Or Maggie. Good evening. Yes. Oh, sorry. Were you saying something, Jeremy?
Oh, I just said hello, Maggie.
Oh, I like cut off for a second. Okay, cool. Yeah. Maggie will be on the show next week. I think we're going to have Andrew Zarian at some point as well. Andrew, if you're in the chat also, I hope you can make it. I'll DM you as well. So hopefully a couple live guests on the show next week. And Pile Driver Finisher says, we do care, Jensen. We care that the Vikings suck. How can you say that when they're 5-0, though? Come on, Pile Driver Finisher. Come on, man.
Yeah, you can't really do that. There was I've told this story before. I don't know if I actually told it on the show, but I'll tell it real quickly before we get into it, since we don't have as much football talk today. I don't know if have you heard of the goalie Martin Brodeur? Do you know who this goalie is?
I know the name, yeah.
Okay. He's the winningest NHL goaltender of all time. So pretty good, obviously. Pretty good. Yeah. And this was later into his career. Actually, he was like kind of peak Martin Brodeur, but still he was obviously very good at the time. Like you have to stay good and consistent to be the winningest goaltender of all time. And there's a very famous chant in hockey of like you chant the goalie's name and then at the end you suck. So the chant is like Brodeur, 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 you suck. And so they were chanting that at the game. And this guy just screams, it's like, you can't say that. You can't say he sucks. He's the most winningest goaltender of all time. You can say you don't like him. You can't say he sucks. It's like, yeah, you kind of got a point. Like, you really can't say he sucks. You can say, like, hey, we don't like you, but you can't be like, you suck. Like, he has the most wins in NHL history.
Yeah, right. I mean, it's almost like, it's funny how, like, Kurt Angle adopted that because everyone knows Kurt Angle doesn't suck, but it was more like, people were, like, ripping kind of the character at the time when they started chanting that. I believe Edge started that chant, too, if I remember correctly, as a storyline. But, no, you're right. That's funny. Like, to be chanting you suck at the best goalie of all time is like, obviously that can't be true. Same for my Vikings. They're 5-0. You can't really tell me that they suck. Now, come the end of the season, if things unravel and things change and they're not in the playoff hunt somehow by then we can revisit that comment and maybe you were right. But as of right now, as of October 17th, 2024, the Minnesota Vikings are still 5-0. So, yeah, also just so everybody knows, and this is going to be maybe a bummer for Maggie, maybe, but you're like, you look all confused. In the near future, me and Jeremy have talked about potentially moving the show to later in the afternoons, just so you guys have kind of a heads up. We'll probably be mornings for a while. We're getting it figured out, but I've always hated that, like, we were on so early that people on the West Coast can't watch us live. And so, I mean, even for the East Coast, it's very early for everybody. So I always appreciate everyone who can be here this early, but we may switch to 6:30 Eastern sometime in the near future. So just keep a lookout for that. If and when we do make that change, just wanted to give everyone a heads up right here on the show that may be happening, but for the time being, still 8:30 a.m. Eastern time for you guys right here. And it'll still be the same place on Fightful Overbook. So the only thing that might change is just like, more people might be able to join us live if we're on a little bit later in the afternoon.
Yeah, we'll let everybody know if and when that happens. We've discussed it, and yeah, we got to figure out a couple of things because I have a busier evening than I do a morning. But we'll keep everybody updated. Until then, leave a thumbs up on this video, subscribe to the channel. That supports Jensen, that supports people like Maggie, who is in the chat always. You can check out Maggie every Friday at 3 p.m. Eastern, coexisting with Rob and Maggie. Leave a thumbs up on the video, subscribe to the channel, and leave a super chat if you would like. Get your question, comment, statement read on air. All right, let's get into it. Anything else before we jump into some topics here?
No, I'm ready to talk some wrestling. The interview today for y'all, when I clock in for the shoot job, Jeremy is going to air an interview that we recorded this past Saturday afternoon. Normally, to pull the curtain back, normally me and Jeremy record our interviews, excuse me, on either Tuesday or Wednesday nights, like once I get off work, and then we air them, of course, for y'all here on Thursday mornings. But we did a Saturday afternoon interview because Starbuck is in Finland and their time change from us is like a 7-hour difference. So it's going to be the Rebel Starbuck. I didn't think I mentioned that. The Rebel Starbuck is going to be our guest for the Creator Spotlight later today or later on the show. So please stick around for that interview. It's very, very interesting.
Yeah, it's a really fun interview. He's got a long history in the world of wrestling, talking about wrestling David Finlay, talking about his relationship with Tajiri, turning down a New Japan offer way back when. So really fun interview with the Rebel Starbuck that we'll get into about an hour and a half from now, give or take. All right, let's jump into things. Let's start with AEW.
Over 1 million fans and a great number in the demo tuned in. And it was a great show. And I think it's been a run of great shows.
Real quickly, since Lord Kev mentioned this, yes, I am in Ohio. Yeah, so there you go. That's Lord's unfortunate part of all of this. I am from Ohio. I live in Ohio. I'm from technically North Carolina.
Well, shout out to Lord Kev as well. I actually just sent him a message the other day to thank him for always. I always see him on. I'm not on social media hardly at all nowadays. Like I actively avoid it for the most part, but it is still a good tool to schedule interviews and to keep up with some people like through DMs and whatnot that I normally wouldn't like text or have their phone number or whatever. And I actually hit up Lord Kev like within the last week and thanked him for always supporting the stuff that we do. So thank you, Lord Kev, for being here live. Appreciate you.
All right, AEW coming off Wrestle Dream and coming off of AEW Dynamite last night. So the big thing that happened to all of us. Jon Moxley is a new AEW World Champion. Bryan Danielson's full-time career is done. And then last night on Dynamite, Jon Moxley said, if you're part of AEW, that means you're in my way. This is all business. This is just business out here. This is the cost of doing business. And if you're part of AEW, that means you're a target. So we're not here to take part. We are here to take over. Conor McGregor. What'd you make of Jon Moxley, the ending of Wrestle Dream, and then continuing into AEW Dynamite with Jon Moxley, Wheeler Yuta, that little traitor, turned his back on Bryan Danielson, Claudio Pack, and Marina Shafir, basically taking over AEW.
Yeah, I mean, to be completely honest, I really, really, really like this story so far. I think this is being done way better up to this point than the Devil reveal with Adam Cole, and then like anywhere we got with the EVP's takeover story. Like I already feel like this feels better than any of that did. And we're only like technically only like a few weeks into it. I know obviously it's been a long-term story overall, but y'all know what I mean as far as like the split of the BCC. And they are still calling them the Blackpool Combat Club, I believe, on screen, even though like, I think they should change the name. Also, like Regal's not there. That was the whole Blackpool part of that, right? It was like they were like Regal's like fight.
But Regal's been gone for a while, and they were still Blackpool Combat Club.
No, I know, but now it's like this is like a total reset of it. I feel like this isn't the same. Like this group isn't. I don't think about like necessarily about like the skill of like training and martial arts the same way that like the Blackpool Combat Club initially was. This feels like a group of guys like literally just taking the company over and beating everybody down until they get kind of what they want. But regardless, I mean, they can call it the BCC. It's really not a problem. I kind of feel like it should maybe have a little bit of a change up. But anyways, one thing that I wanted to mention that I always think is funny is Pac always being in full gear, which is lore. It's like canon lore of AEW. For people who might not remember, may not have been around because it's already been a while. Back when AEW was forming and they were putting together the Full Gear pay-per-view, the main match at that time that they were building, like for the original one, was I believe it was going to be Hangman Page versus Pac, and then like Pac wound up not being able to do the match for some. There was like a whole bunch of stuff that went on back then. It was like around the beginning of AEW, but a big part of it was Pac. The joke on like BTE was Pac was always in full gear, like no matter what, and like he's continued to do that, which I think is kind of funny. Everyone else is wearing like V-neck T-shirts or like white T-shirts or whatever, and he's just out there in his Speedo trunks and no shirt, in his wrestling boots, always ready to wrestle. So there's a couple quick observations. Outside of that, like the more important stuff, I think that it's there's a lot of stuff that interests me about the whole thing. Like I think Moxley as a heel is really, really entertaining, and like this character is really interesting. And I think this is going to do wonders for Claudio as well, because there's always been like that little thing that I feel like everyone's always felt like is missed from Claudio. But in this group, I feel like if he can just be like a vicious heel along with Moxley and kind of do his bidding and, be his muscle and that kind of stuff. But also, obviously, Claudio is one of the best in-ring wrestlers in the world himself. Like I just feel like this is a really good thing for Claudio. It's a great thing for Marina Shafir, who's been around for a while now as well. And this is the biggest thing she's ever been involved with. So there's a lot of good stuff. Yuta, I mean, I can name every member of the Combat Club, and we might see more members at some point too. They've made it very clear that this is a hostile takeover. They made it very clear that Mox is doing this because he hates what AEW has become, and now he's saying everybody works for them. It has somewhat of a feel of like the original NWO. There's no way we can ever get to that point in history again where like, because the business is so split wide open at this point that like people know the ins and outs, people know the backstage stuff, the contracts and this and that. We can never really replicate what the NWO was back in the day because we really didn't know. A lot of us thought Razor Ramon had defected to WCW, Diesel had defected to WCW, and they were fighting for Vince McMahon to take down WCW. But that all said, I really, really, really enjoyed this group so far. And I also think it's very interesting how the Elite they really highlighted how the Elite wouldn't get involved with trying to break it up at the end. And that leads me to believe either they're going to turn babyface eventually and try to be the team to take their company back from the BCC. I could see that. Also, I saw on Fightful social media, I think I saw it on Facebook, actually. I always check Facebook in the morning to see people whose birthdays it is, so I don't miss people's birthdays. Like I missed your birthday. I'm sorry, Jeremy. I missed your birthday this year because I didn't see it on Facebook. I don't know if we're even Facebook friends. I don't even use Facebook.
Probably not.
To keep up with people in high school. So like, I'm so bad with social media nowadays. But anyways, I was on Facebook this morning and I saw somebody on Fightful had put up a tweet with a picture about like when your hostile takeover gets hostile takeovered. And I thought that was pretty, like, that's exactly how I felt when I was watching the show, was the Elites literally watching the BCC do a better version of what they attempted to do. So anyway, I know it's a lot. I know it's a lot to kind of unpack, and I've got thoughts kind of all over the place. But the general thought, honestly, is that I really, really like where this story's gone so far, where I think it's going, and it does feel like a reset. And a lot of what I saw on Dynamite last night felt like a reset and like a really refreshing presentation and stories and stuff going forward. I think it's all really positive stuff for AEW.
I think what they did at the end of Wrestle Dream was fantastic. I didn't like, I'm never going to like Bryan Danielson losing in his full-time career being over. That's always unfortunate, but I understood it was coming to an end sooner rather than later. The way he went out, the way they did that angle was really good, compelling pro wrestling. I liked the open with the cold open with Jon Moxley giving basically the mission statement of, hey, yeah, we're taking this shit over, and this is the new paradigm, and basically putting everybody in a warning right there. I liked that. I liked the attack during the Elite and Orange Cassidy, because when they originally booked Orange Cassidy, Rocky Romero, Kyle O'Reilly against the Elite, because Orange Cassidy was part of the group that came out at the end for Danielson. It's like, I don't know why Orange Cassidy's like in this match. It feels like he should be upset that all of this stuff happened with Bryan Danielson, not just wrestling this trios match. But then they did the attack. I probably would have led with that, and because that was the disconnect. This is where I'm going to have a little bit of criticism there. Jon Moxley does this promo this cold open promo, and like it's really good, and I was into it, and I love what he said, like, you know, no more dancing around, none of this silly shit anymore. Like we're here to like actually fight and scrap. Like AEW is gonna get back to what it was. And then the very next thing we see is Adam Cole, which is fine. But then Cole, who was part of the final angle, he came out at the end, doesn't reference like Danielson or any of that. And I'm like, you gotta, if this is going to be an overarching story for the entire show and for the entire company, you gotta reference this. Like you gotta make some type of like little reference of things, even if it's just one line, but just to show this is a big thing. And then the next match is a tag team match with FTR and the Outrunners. And like, I love the Outrunners. I think they should be the tag team champions. But when you're talking about like when Jon Moxley's saying like goofy shit that doesn't work on our program, the Outrunners is like goofy stuff that people just happen to love. And then they do the big, Predator handshake and everything, and like the people pop. It's good stuff, but at the same time, it's like this is what Moxley is basically talking about, of like this goofy stuff that people. And then the Jericho promo, he's a loser asking for a rematch. It just felt like it felt disconnected from the Moxley stuff. They picked it back up once Moxley and the group attacked Orange Cassidy, but I wish there was a little bit more connection there. Otherwise, like the Moxley stuff, like the actual in a vacuum stuff that Jon Moxley and the group did, I thought was fantastic. I would like to see it play overall a bigger part of the show and have more wrestlers concerned instead of being just contained of, oh, Jon Moxley's on screen, now we care about this stuff. I want it to be kind of everybody showing a little bit of concern, everybody trying to step their game up with when it comes to this.
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, like, so I get what you're saying, about how pretty much everything on the show should have some sort of attachment to that, like some sort of mention, some sort of reference. Adam Cole's in a tough situation, specifically being him, because the devil thing did not go well. They did try to kind of explain it away last night in the way that we all expected he would, basically being like, I got out in front of Adam Cole before he could do it to me. He's the worst person of all time. Like, you gotta understand. And, it is what it is. But it does extend, though, to a good amount of the roster, even to little things like Daniel Garcia, where, and I don't mean little things as far as Daniel Garcia being small, but the little thing of his little dance that I never liked. I never liked that goofy dance that he was doing. I thought it was counterproductive. I get that people were into it and it helped him get over. Like, I'm not saying it was necessarily a bad thing. I always thought it was goofy. The few people that I watched wrestling with thought it was goofy. It was just like, I hope he stops doing this and gets more serious, because he's such a great in-ring wrestler and he's got so much potential still that's on tap. And he could really could be a top guy in AEW. And I've noticed he stopped doing the dance. Like after getting involved, like pretty much since he came back with his MJF stuff, he's been doing this thing, but he hasn't been like actually dancing with it. So little changes like that I like. People getting more serious. And it's also it gives me off like mid 90s WCW vibes with this whole NWO. I'm making NWO comparisons because they're I think they need to be made in a positive way here, because I think that like I really like how the babyface teams are starting to like alliances are starting to form. Like Private Party and Daniel Garcia are like and I like how they're showing us this happening. Like, it isn't totally random. Like, there's like confrontations happening backstage, and Daniel Garcia is getting in people's faces and stuff, and he's turning around and dapping up Private Party and being like, I got you guys back if you got mine. And they're all like, yeah, we all got each other's backs. Like, so you're like seeing the alliances form. We know that Action Andretti and Top Flight, I guess we can just collectively call it all three of them Top Flight at this point. They same kind of thing. Like, they have all the reason in the world to want to be involved in this, and they're getting a match on Collision for the trios titles, I believe, this Saturday. You have the Dark Order, day one AEW group that literally tried their own hostile takeover at the beginning of the company that went over super not well. But it makes sense that they would want to be involved in this and want to fight for AEW. So, and it's also, it's when I say reset, that's where it all trickles down to also. And I'm like, this feels like a reset, and it feels like it's a refreshing period for AEW, because it's almost like they're talking often about it's been 5 years. It's been 5 years. It's been 5 years. It's almost like, okay, it's been 5 years. We're trying something different. Like, and there's a lot of people who've been here since day one that haven't been getting many opportunities lately. And let's circle back around to some of them. And it's been enough time. Either like it's like now or never for some of these guys. 5 years is a long time to be on a roster not doing a whole lot. And now it's like you got your opportunity to be spotlighted in like a main event storyline now, being someone like Evil Uno, John Silver, Alex Reynolds, and those guys. Like, so I feel like it's a lot of big opportunities for a lot of people that have been around for a long time. And obviously I have all the faith in the world in the BCC as far as like the competitors on that side of this. Like, all the matches are going to be badass. And I think the story is going to continue to get really interesting. So I think it's just great for the company. It's like I said, we're not going to go through the whole show, but like, I felt like the entire show last night, pretty much every segment was like, it was just refreshing. It was like, oh, like, okay, I understand why they're doing this. Oh, they're like really advertising something. They're getting me hyped up for future weeks and future episodes of this stuff and developing stories. Like Shelton Benjamin just coming out for a match against Leo Rush. Like, we haven't really seen these guys in AEW's ring. I mean, Leo a little bit over time, but this is Shelton's debut, and like, this feels fresh. Like, and I kind of feel like I know where the story is going, but like, it's really good. Like, there's just been a lot. I just feel like last night was very refreshing, and it's very, if I'm a day one AEW wrestler that hasn't been doing a whole lot lately, I'd be pretty optimistic right now that like now might be your chance to finally get a shot to really step up.
I think there is some of, you might get a chance to step up. I do think overall last night's show was the most cohesive they've had in a while. The part about like stepping up and everything, maybe this is me being cynical on this, is like Top Flight literally for the past few weeks, they were doing an angle where they were talking about how big of losers they were. It's like, man, we never win anything. Oh, because we're not taking it serious. It's like, all right. I like the fire from Top Flight. I like the fire from Dark Order. And by the way, Darby actually started that with Dark Order when he was slapping around Evil Uno. And was like, look, Moxley's taking over here. Like, we gotta fight back on this stuff. So I did like you can connect that with it. But you've told me for basically 5 years these guys are meaningless. And literally weeks ago, you were telling me these guys are a bunch of losers because they were calling themselves a bunch of losers. They always lose every big match. So I don't have a whole lot of investment in these losers fighting Blackpool Combat Club right now. And it's part of the story beat. I get that. Like, they got to beat up some people to start off. And then eventually, like Daniel Garcia and Private Party, who they've put a little bit more, certainly Garcia, they've put more equity in more recently. Private Party was just kind of a joke tag team. Joke in like, they weren't winning a whole lot before basically the last 3 weeks when they decided, hey, we're going to give them a title shot. So they're going to put more equity in them. Hook is a guy who was part of that closing shot at Wrestle Dream. He's a guy they've put a lot of equity in over the years who could step up. Garcia, as I just mentioned, Orange Cassidy, he's a guy that's been elevated throughout and should be elevated. I've always said more, and it looks like that's going to happen. And then obviously Darby Allin, who I think is everyone considers him a pillar, and he's been in those top spots, those high profile positions. So eventually they're going to fight guys who the company has invested more in over the years. I definitely look forward to that. I like the fire shown by the undercard right now. When they get to sort of the more serious kind of competitive, that can't last too long. It can't be too long of, hey, we're beating up the top flights, the premier athletes. I don't know if they'll get involved, but like premier athletes, Dark Order, because Dark Order was basically heels. They're heels on ROH, but now they're baby faces in this, so it doesn't really matter. Like these guys, like these type of teams that we've just Iron Savages, we can't see them beat up these teams for too long. There's not a whole lot of weight to that, and I don't think we will. I do think the Elite being part of it, kind of like, hey, this isn't our issue right now. I don't know if they're going to be the conquering baby faces on this because we still got the Kenny Omega stuff. Kenny Omega is going to be back at some point, we hope, and he's obviously going to come in and be a big time baby face in all of this. So, do the Elite turn to combat Blackpool Combat Club because Kenny is like, what are we doing here? But it feels like he's got to fight the Elite first, or are the Elite? Are they behind all of this? And because they knew they were shitty at their takeover. That whole thing spoke enough about it, but it sucked. It got dropped way too quickly, and they didn't put enough stock into it. It was not what it could have been given the attack on Tony Khan. So are they potentially behind it?
Yeah, these are all very interesting scenarios. What would you prefer to see? Like, do you think it'd be better? Because I mean, obviously, the Elite's not turning right now. If they're going to turn, it's not happening right away. I mean, they literally just poured intestines onto Kenny Omega's birthday cake last night. Like, they're clearly vibing very heel. And they didn't make the save last night, but they, like, when the BCC was attacking the baby faces, but they commentary made it very, very obvious, like, that was supposed to be a story. And then obviously the Elite looked, conflicted backstage and stuff when they're walking down the hall and whatnot. But like, yeah, how would you prefer this plays out? Like, would you rather you see them be heels that were the masterminds behind all this, or see them eventually be the group to take them down?
So here's the thing. They've established that the Young Bucks are the EVPs, obviously. They've even established Tony Khan as an on-screen character, whether they want to or not, they have. And they've kind of established Christopher Daniels as interim whatever authority. They've got to do some type of reference with that. Like, why is Tony Khan okay with all of this happening? Why isn't he barring people from the arena? I understand Jon Moxley is the champion, but it feels like Tony Khan, who we know is the on-screen authority figure, we know he has the power, should probably make some type of reference, whether it's through Christopher Daniels as his proxy or whether Tony Khan has a huge announcement. Why isn't he making some type of reference to all of this? Matthew Hook saying TK is behind Mox after the Elite screwed him. I don't like this at all. I don't need heel authority Tony Khan in any way, shape, or form. That just sounds awful to me. It sounds terrible. And I don't think Jon Moxley being the renegade heel, great. Jon Moxley rules. Tony Khan trying to play, I didn't need Tony Khan on screen at all. That's why the attack hit so hard when he got beat up by the Elite, because it's like, oh, that's good, because Tony shouldn't be an on-screen authority figure. He is a very likable person. So him getting beat up put a lot of heat on the Elite. And that's why I thought they could have done a whole lot more with that. I do think Tony Khan, whether he does it or whether Christopher Daniels does it, should have some type of just say in what the Elite are or what the Blackpool Combat Club are doing. It should be a little bit referenced here.
So do you think, thank you, by the way, Matthew Hooks, for the super chat. We very much appreciate that. Anyone else who wants to send a super chat, we'll make sure to put it on the screen, and we'll highlight that and answer your questions, read out your statements and all that good stuff. So this is a good kind of segue into this question. If not Tony Khan, do you still think that there is like a quote unquote higher power? Because Mox has kind of alluded to that, but like that doesn't necessarily mean that it has to be a person. We've talked about that too, how like maybe it's like a concept or an idea that's really like the higher power, not necessarily a person. Or like, do you think that there's any fire to the smoke of Shane McMahon being involved in this?
I would love Shane McMahon just for the chaos of it all. I don't think Shane McMahon is the right call for this. I've always been behind it's an idea. And Jon Moxley is the perfect person to push the idea because he was the guy who jumped and who got a lot of people talking when he jumped. So I think Jon Moxley is the leader of all of this, and it is more of an idea because like if this whole reveal, let's humor and say it is Shane McMahon. Again, hilarious to me. But Shane McMahon is the guy who's like, hey, I thought AEW started sucking and I'm here to bring AEW back to what it was.
Right.
Like, really? This is who we're doing it with? I think Shane McMahon with the Elite makes sense. With this Jon Moxley group doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
Yeah, I'm with you too. I mean, it would make more sense if Shane was involved with the Elite, especially considering we've seen him, with them in the airports and stuff. Yeah, I don't know. Because honestly, I don't think that Shane McMahon really fits the description of the BCC as far as like a higher power for the exact reasons you just mentioned. I was trying to figure out ways that it could make sense. And obviously Shane loves his MMA, and he like in Shane's own mind, he probably fits in like he fits like a glove in the Blackpool Combat Club. But I could see a scenario maybe where Shane does get involved with the Young Bucks if he is. It's pretty. He's like Shane's head at AEW, right? They haven't. I know they haven't.
I don't think so.
You don't think so?
No.
You think that's all just like the timing of like the Vince doc dropping and like them running into each other and all that?
I do think it was just timing of them running into Shane, them being the Young Bucks just at the airport. Like obviously he met with Tony Khan. That was on record and we saw the photo and everything. So there is obviously some smoke to it. I just don't think that's what it's going to be. I don't think so. I think everything else is just happenstance, and they're obviously going to play it up because it gets people talking, but I don't think that there's a plan to bring him in.
Yeah. Also this is off topic, but like on the Shane subject, wouldn't now of all times like be the best, unless I'm missing something big here, which is possible, like wouldn't now be like the best time for him if he was going to be involved with the WWE, like to get back involved with them now that Vince isn't there? Like I know that it might be weird for him or maybe difficult, or maybe he doesn't want to because obviously Triple H kind of has the job that like he always wanted, and Nick Khan also, and this stuff. Like maybe Shane doesn't want to be involved in that environment because like he kind of probably feels like he should have had the keys to the kingdom and not them. And I understand that. But I also kind of feel like if he was ever going to return, if he had the itch to do that, wouldn't it now be a great time to go back to the WWE when like Vince is like not only not involved, but like shunned, like they want nothing to do with him. And I feel like that's like the best time for for Shane to like want to be involved if Vince isn't, you know what I mean?
Yeah. They brought him back at WrestleMania 39 and obviously it didn't go well because he blew out his quad and everything. I don't know how much he actually wants to be involved and stuff. I have no idea what Shane's mindset is. I don't know. Again, he met with Tony Khan. We know that much. What they talked about, no idea. Maybe it was other business stuff and it wasn't anything to do with on screen. No idea what that was. I don't think the end here is Shane McMahon. And if it is, I think that'd be a misfire. I don't think the core AEW fans who are still around want that anymore. And I don't think there's no catch-all fix for AEW. I don't think even if it's Shane McMahon, that's going to be enough to make people go, oh, yeah, let me turn in here and see what Shane McMahon is doing on this program. It might bump for a week because they can always do something for a week that bumps it. But I think you're going to end up hurting more in the long run with your core audience than that extra week of a bump where people are curiously tune in actually helps. Kind of similar to the CM Punk stuff when they aired the footage. Like people tuned in, like, oh, let's see what this footage is all about. And it didn't sustain at all. And in the end, things went down because I do think part of the core audience was like, you kind of did this. It didn't do anything for anybody. You can't actually deliver on anything. Like you can't do a Jack Perry CM Punk match. That's just, it's not going to happen. So how did that actually help in the long run? Like it really, it didn't. And I think Shane McMahon, there's a risk of it being the same thing. You can obviously deliver a little bit more. You have him signed. He's going to be on television. But I think the core audience of what AEW was promised to be 5 years ago and what a lot of people love about AEW gets hurt by bringing in a guy that for years they basically reviled on television.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree. Do you think that we're going to see more people join the Blackpool Combat Club throughout this? Like, do the group get bigger?
Yes, I hope it doesn't get too big, because that's obviously what everyone complained about with the NWO, right? Is like it just became too many people, and everything got lost, and no one cared at the end of it. So I don't need like a bunch of people joining the group. I do think if they get another, because Moxley obviously very well established. Pac's been there since day one. Claudio very well established. Marina, they're doing good stuff with. I don't know if she's gonna ever like wrestle. Like she's just kind of beating people up, which is fine. And then Yuta's kind of the young guy who they've obviously put a lot of stock and equity in for years now when he joined Blackpool, but they're trying to elevate him. I would like to see them take another kind of young person who they haven't put a whole lot in and lift them up. I don't need another like top guy in the group, but I think another guy who's a little bit underutilized joining the group and be like, you know what? I like the way you guys are going about things. I think that would make a lot of sense. And probably just like one, maybe two, but not any more than that.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think that'd be smart. I don't know exactly who those people would be potentially, but I mean, AEW has such a humongous roster between AEW and Ring of Honor that like there's plenty of people that they could elevate through that. Also, you brought up Marina, and that's interesting too, because we don't really see her wrestle often, and I'll be totally transparent and honest, unless like there's stuff that I've just completely missed. I've seen most of Marina's career, and I was a fan of hers in mixed martial arts. So I've been very aware of Marina Shafir for a very long time. She's never been a great pro wrestler. Like just like for whatever reason, I think she thrives in like blood sport scenarios where she can do like the hybrid rules, mixed style with like the MMA. But I don't think she's ever been like the best in-ring pro wrestler. But like as an enforcer, she works perfect because she has the MMA background. That mother's milk submission hold is really cool. She basically just like holds people under her chest and chokes them out. There are things about Marina Shafir that I think draw money and that like can be utilized really well in the show. But I don't think her bread and butter is like going out and having like 20-minute back and forth wrestling matches. I think her bread and butter is like squashing chicks with less experience and like squashing people in like attack scenarios where she can utilize her MMA and utilize her submissions but without having to have long matches, once again, like that are back and forth. And I think so this is like a perfect scenario for her, being almost like the China of the group. I think she's like way more, she's different than China in a lot of ways, but you know what I mean, where it's like Moxley's always next to her. Like I've noticed that like wherever Moxley's at, Marina's at. Like if the rest of the group attacks, she's still with Moxley. So like it's almost like she's like Moxley is the leader and Moxley is an enforcer in his own right, but she's almost like the backup muscle, which once again reminds me of China, because that's like the first time we've really seen a woman in that kind of role being like an enforcer. And she kind of has that kind of vibe to me. Once again, I mean this in like a really positive way. I was actually a big fan of China's. So I think that I just something to kind of keep in mind. I think that this is another way that they can push Marina without having to make her go out there and have these like long back and forth matches. She can just come out and do what she's doing and be over as an enforcer.
I do wonder if anyone like actually confronts Marina, because I don't know if they're going to do any type of intergender match. Marina's not like, you make a good comparison with China, but she's not like big as China was. Like Marina's still like she's good for her size and everything, but like she's not like physically imposing like China was. Like China,
the difference is like we know Marina has like a legit MMA background though. So like we know she's a badass. Whether she's like big or small, like she can kick all of her asses. So it's like
But I like optics wise, you could see China step to Mark Henry, and it's like, oh, China, like she looks just as intimidating as a guy Mark Henry size. Where if Marina Shafir steps to, let's just say like Brian Cage, and Brian Cage is like shorter, but obviously very stockier, or Lance Archer, it's like, oh, this looks kind of like a mismatch here. And obviously optics play a big part in 2024 intergender wrestling. So I don't know. And AEW is largely shied away from that. They've only done like 1 or 2 kind of intergender kind of matches. I'm probably misremembering a few that they've done, but they certainly haven't done a whole lot. So if you're not going to have her, she's obviously beating up men right now, but are you going to have a man kind of hit back at her, even if it's like a slam? It obviously doesn't be a strike, but like sometimes are we going to see that? Or who is a female that steps to her right now? Like, I don't know. Like, is it Willow? I feel like Willow would be a halfway decent shout on this because of conglomeration ties. Willow is obviously the ultimate baby face, so I think Willow could play here. But at some point, like, it does feel there has to be a female on the babyface side too. It can't just be Marina just beating up all these men and no female is like, hey, you know what? Maybe I should deal with this woman.
They got some women that I think could be a good like guys like Shawtown Spurs mentions Layla Gray. Willow, I think, would be a good one.
Layla Gray is like fine as like fodder for Marina. They haven't, again, I need somebody who they've actually put some equity in. Like Layla Gray just feels like another person just like top flight of like, hey, this loser is out here to lose.
The first one that comes to mind for me is Statlander. Just for
Statlander's good, yeah. Yeah, Statlander would be good.
If Camille was a baby face, like eventually I think Camille versus Marino could be interesting just because both are, badass women, like
Sheeta's a good shout. Nyla, if they decide to make her a baby face for the week, would be fine. But I do like Sheeta. Options. Yeah, there's definitely options. I want to see it. I want to see if there is someone, if they do go that route of a woman like finally standing up for the division of like, hey, Marina's out here beating up all these men. Maybe we should, take care of her out here.
Who's honestly the best fit? He's not for the Combat Club that isn't in it, and he isn't an up and comer, but he's somebody that could use the rub and somebody I would like to see push as a singles competitor and somebody who's already involved in this story and could turn. Kyle O'Reilly. He would be perfect for this group because he's already got the skill set. Like, he'd be perfect with these guys. And he's already on the conglomeration side and being attacked along with Orange Cassidy and those guys. I could see Kyle O'Reilly turning. I'm just going to throw that seed out there for people. I know it's kind of random, but because I would love to see Kyle get a massive push too. I feel like, he's one of the best in-ring wrestlers in the world and has been for a long time. He's missed a lot of time with his illnesses and injuries and stuff. But I'm just going to throw that out there. Kyle O'Reilly in the Combat Club would fit like a glove. I
think it's a great fit. I don't know if they'll do it. I saw Maggie and Paul Jarfiner mentioned Josh Woods, and that was a name that came to my mind of a kind of an up and coming guy who they haven't put a whole lot in. He just loses every week with the premier athletes, but he's a guy who fits that style. I don't know if it'll happen. Look, it might be somebody just we're not thinking about, somebody on the independent scene who isn't actually like signed or anything, and they decide to bring him in and really establish a new name for this group.
Matt Mikowski.
I would love it. We love Matt Mikowski.
So sick.
Yeah.
Well, I'm just thinking of guys that we know that have legit MMA backgrounds that are really good at pro wrestling that aren't signed. Like Mikowski would be way up that list. Someone like Filthy Tom, if they had access to him, there's a lot of options. But I'm also into the idea of someone like Josh Woods or like a younger up and coming talent that hasn't had much of a push, in AEW or in mainstream wrestling. Josh Woods, most of his stuff has been through Ring of Honor, but he's got a ton of talent and has for a while. He got a great look. I could see him maybe being involved in something like this.
Yeah. All right. Also in AEW this past weekend at Wrestle Dream, we had basically a double return. MJF returned, first time since All Out when he got taken out by Daniel Garcia. He confronted Daniel Garcia. And then Adam Cole. Adam Cole came back. Seems like he's healthy. He at least ran off MJF, and then he cut a promo on Dynamite saying he knows the real Max and everything about him is fake, including his hair, which he had to go twice for surgery for. And then MJF was on the screen and he was like, I'm not going to give you the satisfaction of beating me. I'm never going to face you. You're never going to get me in the ring. And then he drank his wine.
Yeah.
They just completely glossed over the devil stuff. They were just like, yeah, all of that. I did it because Max sucks. And I knew that all along. And let's move on.
The funny thing is, when this was happening, before the devil reveal, before like it was officially Adam Cole, when everyone knew it was obviously going to be Adam Cole, but like it hadn't actually happened yet, I called this all the way back then. I was like, because remember we were doing the show then, you know, I for weeks I was talking about how MJF shouldn't even be a babyface. I was like, this is so silly. Like, why are people even cheering him? The kangaroo kick is goofy. Like, this guy's a heel. Tony Khan needs to abort mission and like get him back to being a heel as fast as possible. And I was like, when it's all said and done, it's going to be Adam Cole as the babyface the whole time for getting out in front of it. I saw most of this coming, and I'm not sitting here like I'm some wrestling savant. I think most people who followed along and were watching this all happen in real time kind of saw this ultimately playing out. Like, not necessarily playing out exactly the way that it wound up playing out, but playing out to where we're at now, where MJF is always going to be a better heel than babyface. And I think it was a mistake. I mean, he got very over as a babyface for a short time, and it was the Adam Cole friendship and stuff. I get that, but I think they dragged it too long with him as a babyface, and they exposed him a little too much as a babyface. I think he works way better as a heel. So, you know, let me put it this way. I'm not surprised right where we're at now with this, with Adam Cole being the babyface, MJF being the heel, the way that they explained it. And obviously the match is going to happen. I mean, if we don't get Adam Cole versus MJF at any point in the somewhat near future, that makes absolutely no sense. So I have every you know, I have all faith in the world that like this match will be happening. And I'm assuming it'll probably happen the next pay-per-view. So
I think World's End, to bring it back to basically where it all started.
Oh, sorry. We have another one before World's End, don't we?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was thinking World's End also. Yeah.
There's Full Gear before that.
Right.
I don't know. Obviously, Cole is healthy enough to be on television and do enough to where they feel comfortable to put him out there and really build an actual match with MJF. I don't know how healthy he really is. And I wouldn't throw him back in there first match against MJF. I would test his foot and ankle a little bit before that, because he hasn't wrestled in over a year. And he's coming off an injury that, again, it was a freak thing. He just jumped off the ramp, but it was enough to keep him sidelined for a year. So I would not put him back in there. Big pay-per-view match, MJF first match back. I'd test it a little bit and just see how it goes, because I'm just not sure how healthy he is right now. Again, good enough to be on television, good enough to start building something with MJF, but probably should do a couple of matches beforehand to see everything. And I think they are going to slow play this a little bit. I think that was the purpose of MJF being like, yeah, I'm never going to face you. I think it is to slow play this whole thing and not do it. Full Gear is still like 5 weeks away, so it's not like you're doing it too quickly if you do it at Full Gear. But I think there's enough story there to stretch it out until World's End and basically bring it back around to where it kind of all started. I don't know MJF's schedule either. MJF, for all we know, could still be filming movies and everything, and he's not going to be able to show up kind of weekly.
Yeah, I think you're right, though. I think that this is just a way of them buying some time, like keeping the storyline going without having them actually wrestle one another. And I think it'd be smart to probably test Adam Cole, his health out a little bit before, his return match being the MJF match. So yeah, I think you're probably on the money when it comes to all of that. But obviously that match is going to happen as long as, both guys stay healthy enough to be in the ring.
Yeah, I don't want a situation where, Britt was gone for a year and then they did not give her nearly enough ring time before kind of putting her in that Mercedes match. And she had just like one or two matches. She had the match with Sheeta, which wasn't all that great. And then I think there was going to be like one other short little match before that. Like, don't put your wrestlers in that situation when they've been gone for that long. Let them, because you don't run house shows, so it's not like, you can do a bunch of house shows to have them work and get reacclimated to things. So I would at least give them a little bit of ring time beforehand.
Yeah, I'm with you.
All right, we can move on to WWE.
I need to finish the story. In the WWE, the story never finishes.
We'll start with old Cody here, being a dork, getting beat up, politicking Kevin Owens out of the picture. Did you see this Kevin Owens social media post where he sent a video into Raw and they didn't air it? Now he says, SmackDown, you better air this video or I'm going to air it myself. Why is Cody not allowing this video to air?
I'm interested in what's going on here with this because I did see, obviously, I saw the turn in Atlanta in the parking lot when Owens turned on him in the fan footage is kind of what got out there for the turn. Didn't happen on television, and then I did see the social media video that Kevin Owens put out. Was it yesterday that he put that out about that video, or maybe 2 days ago?
Tuesday. It was Tuesday.
So Tuesday, yeah, he put out that video, and what Jeremy's referring to is essentially Kevin Owens is saying that he filmed the video explaining his actions against Cody Rhodes and this stuff, and WWE has not aired it, so he's giving them until SmackDown to air it, and if they don't air it, he's just gonna put it up himself on social media again. So, yeah, I highly doubt the story on screen is going to be that Cody is the one preventing this from happening, because that's a pretty heel thing. And obviously Kevin's going to be the heel and Cody is the white meat babyface. So I don't know how it's going to play out. It's going to be interesting to find out like why it's being blocked and who doesn't want, who they're trying. I mean, they're trying to protect Cody with this thing is how it feels, whoever that person is or whoever that group is. But, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, my assumption is that they're going to air whatever the video is on SmackDown. They can't, I think it's smart and it's innovative how much of this they have put on social media. I talked about that the other week. Like, I do like the idea of, we talked about like the Drew McIntyre promo before Bad Blood, before he made the drive to Atlanta and stuff, and how good that was. And how much good stuff is happening for the company that we're not even getting on screen on Raw or SmackDown. But at some point, obviously, they need to start showing this on TV. And, so I don't know. I highly doubt that the payoff of any kind is going to be that Cody is the one preventing this from getting out there.
Do you think somebody's helping Cody? Do you think Nick Aldis is trying to protect Cody?
I think that somebody is, but it is not Cody's orders, if that makes sense. Like, I don't think Cody has anything to do with this not being played, but there's somebody who thinks it's the best for Cody or the best for the company or the brand or whatever if it doesn't get out. But was it me? Is that what you just said? Yeah, I wish. I think that, it's interesting though, because is there any information in this that makes Cody look bad? And is that why they don't want it aired? And if that is the case, why are you doing this? And is it because you want there to be more of a divide between like Cody and Roman as baby faces, and you want a little more of a shade of gray to Cody? Or is it all just BS? And like Kevin Owens is completely in the wrong with all of this. And like, it's more of like it's more complex than what we're giving it credit for. Like maybe there's somebody on Kevin Owens' side that's doing it for Kevin to make it seem like the company's holding him down. Like, I don't know. Ultimately, we're getting a heel Kevin Owens versus a babyface Cody Rhodes, and also a heel turn for Randy Orton. Like this stuff is all inevitable. So
are we sure Randy's going to turn heel?
I think it will happen. I just don't know when. It's tough because they're having to, like, with the Rock stuff, with the Rock, Roman, and Cody kind of kind of saga going on with those guys. And of course the bloodline story on top of that. There's things, there's like checkpoints that they have to hit. And it's like, you know, there's like those reports. I think Meltzer was, you know, I love Dave Meltzer, but I think he was the one who was saying like The Rock's not going to be at WrestleMania. And it's like, of course he's going to be at WrestleMania. Like there's no way they're going to run these angles and Rock's not going to be at WrestleMania. So like, it's a matter of like, where do they need to get? To answer your question, Jeremy, I think, yes, Randy Orton's going to turn heel, but it's a matter of like, they have to fit it in to when I'm having a hard time saying what I'm trying to say. Like they have to get to the checkpoints of like Cody versus The Rock, Roman versus The Rock, Cody, Roman, and The Rock, all that stuff. So they have to kind of like fit in the Orton stuff around that, if that makes sense.
I don't think we're getting an Orton heel turn anytime soon. Yeah, I think that Kevin turned, and I think that's the big turn out of this. I think Orton, at least until the stuff with The Rock and Roman settles, I think Orton's going to remain a babyface. Maybe after all of this, he turns, but they don't need an Orton turn right now. Not with The Rock back in the picture, not with Roman doing all this stuff, and not with Kevin turning. You got plenty of story with just Kevin out of this. I think Kevin should honestly win the title at some point before all of this. My ideal scenario was Kevin wins the title at Survivor Series.
From Cody.
Yeah. He loses it to Cody, Netflix Raw debut. And then The Rock comes out at the end of the show. I understand Cody and Kevin are on SmackDown. I don't care. They don't care about the brand split. It's not real. The Rock comes out at the end of the show, confronts Cody. That sets up Rock and Cody, Royal Rumble. Rock wins the title. Rock and Roman at WrestleMania. That's my scenario.
So that's a lot of Cody losing the title, which I'm not really a big fan of.
Well,
but so my scenario is that Cody holds on to the title.
But see, Cody, he's an idiot.
So my scenario is that Cody holds the title the whole time. He defends. He winds up getting to WrestleMania and then defends against The Rock and retains there. But I'm not going to lie. I think that I don't think that Kevin Owens is going to win the title and then like Cody's going to win it back from him. Although I do think that you're going to need something big for that first Netflix Raw. So like, I'm not going to completely discredit or discount your idea. I think it's like a possible idea. I think it's a low possibility, but I think it can happen. I'm more concerned about the WrestleMania scenario. Whether they're going to go Rock and Roman, or if they're going to go triple threat, or if they're going to go Cody Rock, like exactly what they're going to do with the three of them. I think like we're going to be in a similar situation that we were last year, where they're going to listen to the fans and let them kind of decide around Royal Rumble time which way they want this to go. And it's very possible that it goes the way of The Rock beating Cody for the championship, and The Rock is the champion heading into WrestleMania against Roman. I think that is a very possible situation. I mean, it's the match that they wanted last year. Obviously, it would have been reversed with like who had the title, but nonetheless, you know, same idea.
I don't think you want the fans to pick this year as a Cody fan.
I mean, I don't know. Last year was definitely our year. I don't know if that'll ever happen again. I don't know. I mean, listen, obviously love Cody. I think he's like he's the face of the company right now. He is. But Roman also is also the face of the company. Like they're kind of like 1A and 1B, which is like an awesome situation for WWE to have, because they really haven't had this since like Austin and The Rock. Or, I mean, kind of to a degree, they kind of had it with like CM Punk and John Cena, like for like a couple years when Punk like really got up there. So like, it's just very rare for them to be in a scenario like this. And then you have The Rock involved, who's the biggest star in the world, not just in wrestling, but in the whole world involved in this. So it's like, I don't think that every single year Cody is going to be able to we want Cody over The Rock and Roman, especially because like last year we got Cody, and like this year, it's very possible the fans are going to be, you know, really wanting Roman versus The Rock, especially depending on what plays out in this whole bloodline story. I mean, so I'm not going to let my bias get in the way of like complete reality, or like being completely, delusional Like I think it is totally possible that The Rock and Roman is winds up being the main event for WrestleMania and Cody gets boxed out. But I also think it's very possible that WWE is looking at what Cody's doing right now, and like the business is booming, the merchandise is booming. He's like top 5 on Fanatics of all sports, which is incredible. Cody, that I'm talking about. So like he's a great face of the company. I know people don't like to talk about Hulk Hogan, but he's like the closest thing I feel like we've had to like real American Hulk Hogan, like just baby face of the company. Like John Cena was the same way. I don't want to discredit that. John, like hustle loyalty. Oh, that's a better example. That's a much safer example for a lot of reasons. This is our new Cena. This is our new hustle, loyalty, respect. The new HLR is do the work. You know what I mean? So it's like, you finish the story and all this stuff. So it's just, I can't get on board with the idea of Cody getting boxed out, obviously, but I do understand that there's obviously going to be a want for Roman versus The Rock.
Cody, the fans chose Cody this year because he lost last year, and they wanted Cody to finish the story. Cody finished the story. Roman, if you're pitting Roman Rock or Cody, even Cody Rock, or a triple threat. I think a triple threat you can do because then everybody gets involved. And I truthfully think like a triple threat is probably the way it goes. But if you're saying Cody Rock or Roman Rock, the fans are choosing Roman and Rock for that one. Cody Rock is a big match, obviously. Don't get me wrong. But like if we're talking the WrestleMania match, and I think we will get Cody and Rock one-on-one. In my scenario, it happens at Royal Rumble. Yeah, they're choosing Roman and Rock for WrestleMania.
See, at some point, I mean, there's a lot of ways I can go with this, right? I mean, and they're all interesting. And I think they're all good in their own ways. I mean, obviously, the night after WrestleMania this year, when we had The Rock and Cody in the ring together, and they exchanged belts and all that, it was like awkward.
That was so dumb.
But the
fake title.
But the idea is obviously that like. Or I shouldn't say obviously, at least the way I processed all of that happening was Cody proved last year that he was the people's champion. Like the people literally chose him over everybody else to stay in the main event of WrestleMania. Like he was the people's champ. The Rock is walking around with a belt calling himself the people's champion. And I think that ultimately Cody is going to win that title from The Rock. Like he's going to be the one to take that belt from The Rock, and he's going to carry the People's Championship. Now, when that happens, the question is he still going to be the WWE champion at that point, or will Roman be the WWE champion at that point? And then do you do like the big, because eventually we're going to do Cody versus Roman again. It's just a matter of like when they wind up doing it down the road. At that point, is it like Cody's the People's champion going in against Roman being the WWE champion or something like that? I mean, there's just so many different ways they can go with all of this. But hey, listen, it all involves The Rock, once again, the biggest star in the world, Cody, my favorite wrestler of all time, and Roman Reigns, the best built star the WWE has had since John Cena went like part-time, so like, I mean, this is, and then you have the whole bloodline story on top of it, like that we're not even really getting into, which was my spotlight for today, which ties into this, was just basically the idea that the bloodline is rebuilding, and like, Jey Uso doesn't want to talk to Jimmy at the moment, but it's pretty clear that eventually the Usos will. I don't necessarily want to see them as like a full-time tag team going forward, because I think they've done such a great job of both of them like having their own identities, especially Jey being so over and winning the Intercontinental Championship and stuff. Like I think that you can have some matches with the two of them together, and as a group they could be aligned, but I'm interested to watch the all these seeds being planted of the original bloodline reforming to take on the new bloodline. And I've said it since the beginning, and I'll say it again. I do think the new bloodline, the OG bloodline reforming, I think that is going to include Solo Sikoa. I think that Solo is going to have to re-defect over, because the whole concept of him taking over the bloodline was, we don't accept losers or losses. Let's say combine two words. They don't like, you have to be accountable for losing in the bloodline. And when Roman lost to Cody, that was Solo's opportunity to take the group over, because Roman went away and, Roman was a loser now, and Solo was going to carry the group. Solo is now a loser. Solo has lost multiple times, multiple big opportunities in big matches. And I think it's pretty clear to everybody that Jacob Fatu is the best member of this new bloodline, unless you want to count like The Rock as a part of that, because we're assuming he's probably involved. But like as far as like in ring right now, Jacob Fatu, I think is like leagues better than Solo. And it's not a knock on Solo. I just think Jacob's that good. And so it's like I think eventually Solo is going to have to wind up back on the original bloodline also. We might even see Sami Zayn over there and stuff. And I think we're going to get like the OG bloodline. We might even get some new members of the new bloodline because they're going to have to fill these teams up. But that was my spotlight this week was they're planting the seeds there with having Jay and Jimmy. Like Jimmy's trying to talk to Jay and Jay doesn't want to talk to him. But obviously at some point they're all going to get together to fight off the new bloodline, it feels like.
I don't think Solo's flipping anytime soon. I think they're getting into war games. I'm still of the belief it's going to be a 4-on-4 war games. I don't think it's going to be 5-on-5 like it has been in the past. I think it's going to be Solo, Jacob, Tama, and Tonga against Roman, Jay, Jimmy, and Sammy. I don't know who you add as a fifth for either side to make that make sense. Because if you add, let's say, Hikuleu to the new bloodline side, I don't know who makes sense on the old bloodline side, unless you do go this whole Solo flips to the old bloodline. But you can't do that soon. You can't do it within a month and a half after everything Solo has done this year to just be like, hey, at least with Jimmy and Jay, that's been a slow burning thing of how it happened. Like Solo had to basically take them out, and now we're gonna kind of get everybody coming back together. Solo caused way too much damage since WrestleMania for a month and a half to be like, yeah, you know what, he's back on our side now. Like it's fine, it's okay. He's done way too much damage that Jay never did this type of damage. Jimmy never did this type of damage to the bloodline and the bloodline legacy, and that's why they can repair and kind of get things back together. Solo with stealing seemingly the Ulafala, with the way he took out Jimmy, with the way he took out Paul Heyman, with the way he has been speaking over since WrestleMania, way too much has been done for him to flip back before something like War Games.
Well, I agree with that, but also like in this scenario, it's not his decision, obviously. Like he's not choosing to flip over. Like the new bloodline is going to jump him out of the group. Like they're going to beat him down for being a loser, and he's going to have to crawl back to the original bloodline. It's not going to be like this big, I'm choosing them over you guys now. It's like he's going to be down and out, just like Jimmy was down and out, just like all these people were down and out, like in this whole story, and they're having to build themselves back up. But yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's going to happen immediately, but I think long term maybe, because there are more members of this new bloodline that have not debuted yet that definitely could to keep filling these teams out. But I also think that this story isn't over. You know, I mean, there's obviously not over, but I think there's still like a lot of meat on the bone. As wild as that is, as long as the story's been going on for, there's enough juice in this thing to at least go another year, probably, if they wanted to, easily.
Oh, they're gonna get like another 5 years out of this. You kidding me?
Yeah, I mean, they could. If it continues to be entertaining, I'm all for it.
Do you think that it'll be 4-on-4 at War Games, or do you see it being 5-on-5?
Considering how soon War Games is, I think you're probably right. It's a 4-on-4 for now, but I could also see, you know, let's say Solo takes the loss in that one too for the team. Like he's done in that group.
Yeah, they could easily get Tama or Tonga taking the loss. I don't think Solo, I don't know where he fits long term, because it's obviously they had hopes for him, but then Jacob Fatu came in and really established himself as the guy. The Rock is back. He's obviously going to be above everybody. Roman's there. Jay has gotten himself really over in the meantime, so he looks above everybody. Like Solo, I think Solo is fine as like an enforcer type guy, and I think you can go with that. I don't know if that's going to be new bloodline, old bloodline, or where he fully fits. I don't like Cody involved in any more bloodline stuff. I don't want Cody involved in it at all.
What if Kevin Owens joined the new bloodline as like the opposite of Sami Zayn?
I don't need any of these guys.
I'm just throwing an idea out there. I'm not saying it's a good idea.
I know. I know, but like everybody, it keeps throwing you. Oh, what if Orton is involved and Cody and Kevin Owens? Like, no, I don't want any of these guys in there. Don't shoehorn them in just to do 5-on-5. I think that's worse than just making it 4-on-4. Just do 4-on-4. It's okay. People will understand it. I'd much rather it be do 4-on-4 and it makes sense than trying to do, let's do 5-on-5. Look, I understand if you got The Rock and The Rock can work the date, you want to use The Rock. So if The Rock is willing to wrestle this match, fine. You basically got to put Cody in there at that point because you don't really have a choice. But if you don't have The Rock, don't try to shoehorn other people into this. Don't bring up Hikuleu just to put him in this match because it's like, well, we have him. We might as well use him. And then throw somebody else on the OG side, whether of Cody. You definitely don't need Kevin and Cody as part of this War Games thing. You don't. They're their own separate story. Let the Bloodline stuff do Bloodline stuff. Everything makes sense with the OG side and the new Bloodline side. Everything makes sense as it stands 4-on-4. Don't shoehorn people in. That's where I'm at on it.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think it makes sense.
Our product is what it is. We're going straight up the middle.
Zack Sabre Jr. is the new IWGP World Heavyweight Champion. He won the G1. He cashed in his little contract early and decided, I'm going to wrestle Tetsuya Naito at King of Pro Wrestling. And then he defeated Tetsuya Naito at King of Pro Wrestling after multiple Zack drivers. Jensen, what do you make of New Japan strapping up Zack Sabre Jr.?
I mean, it's a long time coming for him. He's been a part of New Japan for a long time. He's been a pro wrestler for a long time. I mean, and I remember back when, I mean, it was already forever ago, that Cruiserweight Classic, when, people were like, man, that'd be cool if he signed with WWE, like all the way back then. And he was like a big name even before that tournament and stuff, like, regionally and on the independent scene and stuff. And he's a guy who's, he's kind of overcome a lot of the stigma that he's had throughout his career of like his size and stuff. Like people like, he's like scrawny and thin and blah, blah, blah. But like, it's never mattered because his in-ring style is so unique in the way that he chains moves together and stuff and submission holds, and just he deserves a lot of credit. And especially in New Japan where like, obviously he's a gaijin there. They don't historically push like a ton of gaijin as far as like their absolute top guy in that company. And like, he's made it there off of his work. I mean, like in doing something totally different than what other people are doing, the only thing that's similar is someone kind of like, like Bryan Danielson has like, similar traits in a lot of his chain wrestling and stuff like that. But I think Danielson's like a better overall striker, but Sabre's striking has gotten better over the years too. Like, I mean, and now also he's not just like finishing people with like random submission holds, which I do like, by the way. I like that he changes up his submission holds and stuff and keeps it fresh and keeps it unique and keeps you guessing as to when the match is going to end. But those Zack drivers, I mean, they're essentially like Michinoku drivers. And he's established that as a move that can put away world champions, literally pin Tetsuya Naito with it. So I'm happy for ZSJ. I called him to win the G1 during our predictions. And I was thinking, if, like obviously, AJ's been gone a long time. Kenny's been gone a long time. Ospreay's been gone now for a little while. Like, who are they going to go, who's going to be a top gaijin star for them going forward? And it's ZSJ. And that's, I mean, I can't think of a better person to fill that role right now for that company. And once again, it isn't just like a box checking thing. Like they needed a top gaijin star right now, or Zack Sabre Jr. needed to be the champion for this reason, that reason, other than like, he deserves it. He's put in the work. He has great matches. He brings interest to the company, and New Japan's in a really weird spot right now. Like, Tanahashi just announced he's going to be retiring in, I think, the beginning of 2026, I think he said. So like, he's wrapping up. He's one of the best of all time that they've ever had. Okada's gone. Ospreay's gone. Shibata's gone. I mean, Nakamura left years ago, obviously, and stuff. They're just in a really strange spot right now. in like the overall landscape of pro wrestling. And I feel like it's only a good thing for New Japan that Zack Sabre Jr. is their champion right now. Because like I said, I think it's going to bring in fans that maybe weren't watching for a little while that might be like, oh, I've always loved ZSJ. Let's see what he does with the title. Or if you're a longtime fan of the company, he's a guy who's put in the work and he just makes sense to be the champion at this point. So I'm all for ZSJ being the champion.
I think they established a lot of good stuff coming out of King of Pro Wrestling. Obviously, Zack Sabre Jr. winning the title. But they're building up guys like Yota Tsuji. Fujita is about to challenge for the strong open weight championship. Shota's a guy they've put a lot of equity in. Like they clearly, and Ren Narita is another guy. Like they're clearly they're in I don't want to fully say it's a rebuilding phase, but they're in a retooling phase because Naito's getting older. Tanahashi's got 1 year left. Okada's gone. Those were kind of your big three over the past 15 years, essentially.
Nakamura was in there, but less than a while ago.
Yeah. Like over, if you want to say the last 10 years, then that's probably closer. Because Nakamura left, 2016?
It's already been that long, hasn't it?
Yeah.
Wow. I don't know if it was quite 2016, maybe a little after. But you're in the ballpark, though. I'm going to guess it's been probably 8 years, 7 or 8 years, my guess.
Well, AJ was 2016, right? So that would be when Nakamura left. Yeah, Nakamura joined WWE in 2016. So yeah.
Wow, it has been that long. That's so wild. Even Nakamura was my favorite New Japan wrestler of all time, by the way. I remember subscribing to New Japan World specifically because of what he was doing at the time. Anyway, sorry, I can't believe how long that's been already, but it makes sense. Wow.
So yeah,
I'm going to cut you off. Go ahead.
That's fine. Yeah, so the last 10 years, it's been basically Naito, Okada, and Tanahashi who have been at the top. And they've cycled guys in and out, obviously. Kenny Omega got over huge. Jay White, they put a lot of equity in. And Will Ospreay are guys, Gaijins who they ended up doing a lot with in those main event roles. But the three I just mentioned, Okada's gone, Tanahashi winding down, Naito winding down. So you got to elevate new people. And I think they tried a little bit last year. It didn't fully work because they were still just so young, but they've stuck with it. And they've clearly had a plan in place for these guys. And all you can do is continue to stick with it. And then eventually when the time is right, pull the trigger on all these guys. And I think we will see that probably next year with Tsuji, Shota, and Ren Narita. I think you'll really see them in some high profile spots and main eventing shows next year. But Zack Sabre, to get back to the point, Zack Sabre Jr. is that kind of next top gaijin who, like an Ospreay, like an Omega, like a Jay White, who they're going to put a lot into. And they've put a lot into just over the years with him. They've just never elevated him to this level, obviously, of putting the IWGP World Heavyweight title on him. I think it was a right call. He's got Royal Quest this weekend. He's going to be defending the title against Sonata. I do wonder where they go for Wrestle Kingdom, because usually the G1 winner gets the title match at Wrestle Kingdom, and obviously he won the G1, and so they're not going to do that. They're already doing the Sonata match this weekend. The other people who confronted Zack Sabre were Shingo and Shota. So they're doing the Shingo match, I believe, at Power Struggle in November. I don't know if you're going to headline Shota and Zack Sabre at Wrestle Kingdom. Maybe Shingo wins the title at Power Struggle, and then you headline with Shingo and Shota at Wrestle Kingdom. And there's
know.
options. There's options. Like if you want to make somebody, like if you really want to make somebody, like you give them the Wrestle Kingdom main event. That's just the way you do it. And if they want to, they can put Shota in that spot and really make him. I just don't know if they're gonna do that. But you obviously got to have a Japanese wrestler in the main event at Wrestle Kingdom. That's not obvious, but most likely you're gonna have a Japanese wrestler in that spot. I just don't know if it's gonna be Zack Sabre Jr. or if and who is gonna be across from him.
Yeah, what's our other topic? I'm with you on that though too. It's interesting to think about who may be in that main event come Wrestle Kingdom. I'm a Shota fan, by the way, just for what it's worth. Like, I've always liked him, shooter. You know, it'd be cool to see him win that title, then like realign with Jon Moxley also at some point. It'd be kind of cool. Anyways.
The other topic is Vikingo in TNA. That was officially announced by the company. He's going to be at Bound for Glory. Do you know what he's doing at Bound for Glory?
I actually don't. I saw that he was going to be there, and you know, I'm looking forward to Bound for Glory. I did not see who he's going to be wrestling.
Do you want a spoiler?
Is it like a spoiler? Like, do we need to give everyone a spoiler alert right now?
I mean, it's going to be announced tonight, so you're just learning about it, I guess, 12 hours early.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Okay, so spoiler alert, if anybody does not want this, you know, tune out for 30 seconds or so. Vikingo is going to be facing Speedball Mike Bailey at TNA Bound.
Oh, that's genius. Yeah, that's fire. That's going to be awesome. It's going to be the best match. I got to look at the whole card. I don't even have to look at it, though. That's probably going to be the best match on the show right there. I mean, but one more needs to be said. Vikingo, it's good that he's back, too, but Vikingo, one of the most innovative guys in the game. You know, Speedball, consistently one of the best in-ring wrestlers from bell to bell that you can find in the world, in my opinion. I mean, no matter what company he's working for and who his opponent is, he always has one of, if not the best match on the show. And I mean, that's just Vikingo versus Speedball. That's a recipe for a match of the year candidate right there, potentially.
Yeah, it's going to be a fantastic match. It is good to see Vikingo back in action, coming off the injury. I don't know what his future is in AEW. Guess we'll find out. Seems like Conan is doing a lot of his bookings, and Conan doesn't speak too highly of AEW on his podcast. Do you listen to his podcast?
I listen. I dabble. I actually got a Conan. It's over here, actually. A little Conan signed plaque from back in the day from WCW. It happens to be peeking from the corner, but yeah, no, yeah, Conan, that's interesting. I mean, that's a whole other topic in itself. Conan and his history in wrestling, and like, you know, his relationships and with these companies and stuff like that, because he's handled quite a few wrestlers throughout history. I mean, I'm sure people know that he was the one to get Rey Mysterio booked back in the day in like WCW and stuff. Like, so Conan's always held a lot of influence. It's interesting to see what Vikingo's future will look like, kind of under his guidance.
He's always kind of been tied with Vikingo. I don't think that's anything new.
Oh, no, I'm just saying, like, considering that Vikingo in his relationship with AEW and Conan's relationship with AEW, like, what that will look like is really more what I mean.
All right, final topic. Let's hit the indies.
I want to give a big motherfucking shout out.
At night 2 of GCW Fight Club, Joey Janela was like, everything in GCW is bullshit. Entertainment nonsense. I'm tired of it. Let's restore the feeling.
Yeah, this is a really great promo. Like, I recommend...
I'm underselling it, but yeah.
Yeah, I recommend people go out of their way to check this out. This gave me the same type of feeling of, like, Paul Heyman, like, firing up the troops before ECW shows and stuff. Like, you can tell there was a lot of just realness to what Janela was saying on the microphone. That he was speaking from the heart. He basically talked about like the people who paved the way for GCW, and that he doesn't like the sports entertainment stuff that's been going on recently. And part of this is storyline, and I'm sure part of this is real life feelings, because you know, Matt Cardona is the on-screen general manager for GCW, and along with that, over the last, you know, year or whatever it's been, he's essentially, you know, they've been bringing in, I say Cardona, he's not actually at fault. He's not really the general manager, but like, y'all know what I mean? Like, it's all connected. You have Cardona as the general manager, making a lot of, you know, WWE references and constantly threatening to go back to the WWE and stuff like that. They've been bringing in people like Bully Ray most recently came in for War Games. You've had John Bradshaw Layfield. You've had plenty of like, you know, Jinder Mahal. You've had a lot of people coming in like from the WWE. And most of the time they target Effy or like, you know, an original in the company, Joey Janela, stuff like that. So yeah, I thought that Joey's promo was really, his speech rather, was really, really good. And it's optimistic on my end, as far as like, you know, I'm a massive fan of Game Changer Wrestling. So like, I would prefer if it went a little more to the way it used to be, also less sports entertainment and more about, the best wrestling in the world and putting on like a real kind of diverse super show, like a super indie show where you have a little bit of everything. You have the best in-ring mat wrestling, you have the best high flying, you have the best death matches, you have like a mix of all this stuff. Matt Tremont also alluded to these changes, and after the main event also on the same show, he grabbed the microphone and basically talked about how 2025 GCW is going back to their roots, and having death matches like the match he had just had that night is like that's how you restore the feeling in the company and stuff. So it seems like similar in certain ways to like, well, it's almost like the reverse of like a hostile takeover. It's like the originals. It's the GCW originals basically reclaiming what their company is all about. And Joe Janela spearheading that makes all the sense in the world, because, I'd say overall, historically speaking, Nick Gage would be the main face of GCW. But when Nick Gage isn't around, or, kind of going forward, depending on what his availability and all that stuff is, like Joe Janela has essentially been the face of GCW whenever Nick Gage hasn't been around. And I don't mean that as like a slight to Joe Janela. Obviously, I think anyone would agree. I mean, Nick Gage is like the heart of that company in so many ways. But Joe Janela is like right there with him. He's right there with Nick Gage as far as like importance in the company. So for him to make that speech, it makes me optimistic for the future of GCW. I'm interested to see what changes Brett Lauderdale makes for 2025.
It seemed like War Games would have been a good almost blow off point, but obviously it wasn't, because as we can talk about now, Allie Katch returned, but she turned against Effy, and now she's basically against GCW and Team Sports Entertainment, essentially. I know they're called Deathmatch Royalty. Won the match with Bully Ray, and Cardona is still there, and like at some point Team GCW has to get one over on all of these guys, on JBL, on now Bully Ray, on Matt Cardona. Mance Warner is part of this group, and maybe he turns back and rejoins GCW. I don't know, but yeah, you got to have an endpoint to all of this that I don't know they will get to. And I'm not saying it's not because they don't want to, but we've seen these sort of veteran people just come in, do their spot, and then not give back when it comes to this. I think like somebody like Cardona is willing to give back on this stuff, but is it going to happen before he potentially gets signed elsewhere? Like, is Bully Ray willing to come in there and lay down and take a loss there? Is JBL going to do any of that? Like, I don't know where JBL fits in to all of this, but I hope they have a plan and an end game to where GCW does actually restore the feeling on this and dethrones Team Sports Entertainment.
Yes, I'm with you, and I got a clock for the shoe job in a second, so unfortunately I can't elaborate too much. I will talk more, obviously, on the Weekender about all this stuff, as I always cover GCW over there. But I think that there's some pretty cool stuff potentially that could happen with this story. I'm with you 100% as far as like, once again, historically speaking, GCW has not been the best as far as like following through on certain stuff. And a lot of time it isn't their fault. Like, they lose access to people that they're pushing, and then they just have to, so they're SOL. Like, they're just, they're gone. That person's gone. So now we got to kind of pretend like that didn't happen or just move on. Which is very possible with bigger stars, like the people you just mentioned. But one thing that's very intriguing is our boy Cole Radrick just came back this weekend. He defeated Blake Christian, former GCW champion. Then he defeated Matt Cardona, former GCW champion. He's got the brass ring. He's super over. I think a big part of this story is going to be Cole Radrick being the one to dethrone Mance Warner. So I really hope that happens. That's a huge babyface win for GCW. And Cole is already tied in long-term with guys like Effy and the babyfaces that are representing Team GCW. Like, he already is a perfect fit, like, to be on that group fighting with those guys. Allie Katch's turn was interesting. She cut a really, really good speech as well the night after. So I'd recommend checking her promo out too, explaining her turn. She basically talks about how, she was on the outs with GCW recently, which I don't know how much realness there was to that, but I was hearing rumblings behind the scenes of like what is going on with Allie Katch. Why is she getting booked? Because it'd been a while since we'd seen her. And she cut a whole promo about, I wasn't getting booked. Effy wasn't answering the phone. Effy's all about Effy. And so I got to be about myself now. And I think it's just very interesting. They planted a lot of good seeds. They also have made, or Cyclope is the current #1 contender. He's going to be wrestling for the GCW World Championship. I believe it's this weekend. And I don't think he's going to win the title because I think Mato Shuma will probably cost him. They have a Los Macizos story going on right now. But they're doing a good job of like building contenders for Mance Warner to have big title defenses. And then I think Cole Radrick at some point is going to cash in that brass ring and get a big win for Team GCW and win that title eventually. So that's where I'm hoping it all eventually kind of winds up. But unfortunately, I got to clock for my shoe job before I get yelled at.
Appreciate you as always, Jensen. Anything else you want to get out there before you?
Follow me on X, Fight Talk _. You could Fight Talk and IndependentWrestling.tv. Good seeing you, Jeremy. Good seeing you, chat. And everyone have a great weekend. Skol Vikings.
All right, let's get into our interview with Rebel Starbuck here. Again, get to learn a lot about his career, his history. He's been around the game for a while. He was part of Tajiri's 30th anniversary show not too long ago. Again, he wrestled David Finlay a while ago. He's big in Finland and with Slam Wrestling over there. Lots to get into with Rebel Starbuck. Really fun conversation. So here we go in the Creator Spotlight. Rebel Starbuck.
Welcome to the Creator Spotlight here on the Spotlight on Fightful. I am Stephen Jensen, joined as always by Jeremy Lambert. And our guest today is a Finnish wrestling pioneer. He's a veteran professional wrestler. He's in a band. He's a graphic artist. He's a voiceover specialist. He is the owner and promoter of Slam Wrestling. A lot of stuff going on with this guy. He is the Rebel Starbuck. Starbuck, thanks for joining. How you doing, man?
I'm doing fantastic. I just got back from Japan about a week and a half ago. I was there for my 23rd tour for Yoshihiro Tajiri, the Japanese Buzzsaw's 30th anniversary show in Kumamoto. And we just had an event here in Finland last weekend, which is called Circle City Slam. And that's going to be going on Fight TV, Triller TV at the end of this year. So you'll be able to check it out.
Wonderful, wonderful. What I do notice, it looks like a Ribera jacket you've got on there.
Oh, yeah. I got my new Ribera. I was this is my third Ribera jacket. It's a funny story because one of my original jackets was ruined on a excursion that I had to Denmark about 2 years ago. I forgot it in Denmark, and the guys, they brought it once they came to wrestle in Finland. They brought it back with them, and they'd spilled green paint on my silver Ribera jacket, so they screwed it up, and now I had to get a new one. So this is my third jacket.
Oh, okay. I got you. Well, I mean, obviously, Ribera synonymous with Japan and Japanese wrestling, and so is Yoshihiro Tajiri, as you just mentioned. I know that the two of y'all have a long history over the years, and to my understanding, have actually helped each other over the years. Like you helping him kind of getting booked over in Finland, him with you in Japan, vice versa, and stuff. Can you talk about your history and relationship with Tajiri and how important it was for you to be a part of that anniversary show recently?
Well, I'll tell you what, in all of our careers in pro wrestling as professional wrestlers, there are people that stand out as far as being pivotal in your career, people that are absolutely crucial to your success and to your personal development. And for me, my career goal was always not only just to wrestle in Japan, but if I would ever get there, that I would get over in Japan. And I was given that opportunity in 2010, and I got over literally an overnight sensation. I was there for a show on the 24th of July, 2010. It was an afternoon show where I basically trounced Hajime Ohara. I basically, it was a glorified squash. And then I took the title off of Tajiri on the evening show. So literally Tokyo Sports, Samurai TV, Weekly Pro Wrestling Magazine, et cetera, we're all writing and talking about the Rebel Starbuck.
Oh no, we lost him. We'll get him back.
Might have had a
it's okay.
phone call.
Yeah. Yeah, that happens. That happens on the phone sometimes.
Yeah.
We got you back.
Yeah, here we go. Yeah. So I was just saying that at the end of the year, 2010, beginning of the year 2011, Weekly Pro Wrestling Magazine, they had their year-end voting for like all the different categories, match of the year, et cetera, like. in New Japan, All Japan, Noah, whatever have you. And then also there was a category called was the Foreigner of the Year, the most popular foreign wrestler, most popular gaijin of the year. And the funny thing is, I'd been there for like 5 months, and I was already voted in the top 5. I think Kenny Omega was number 1, working for New Japan, and I was number 5. So it just goes to show that, like, I didn't just go to Japan, I got over like gangbusters in Japan. So Yoshihiro Tajiri was my facilitator. He was the pivotal factor in getting me there. And he gave me the opportunity, gave me the spotlight, and then gave me the ball to run with. I was the champion for his companies twice.
I have one more follow-up before I pass over to Jeremy for some questions. But is it true that you actually like turned down like bookings and stuff like for New Japan and like larger companies, like out of loyalty to Tajiri?
Yes. Yeah. This is actually a lesser known thing, but in 2012, when Smash had closed its doors and the Wrestling New Classic had just started up. So Tajiri, he lost his promoter that was promoting Smash. And then he found a new promoter that put the money in for the money man, so to speak, for Wrestling New Classic, WNC. And during that time, I was his top gaijin. So he had booked me as his top foreign wrestler. And with that said, New Japan courted me. They took me out to lunch one day in the summer of 2012. I won't mention names. I won't drop any names. But I'll say the office took me to lunch. And they said, now's the time to transition over. Now's the time for you to come over. And I said, I'm sorry, but I can't do that. I said, Mr. Tajiri opened the doors for me to come to your country, to be a star in your country. Right now, he needs me more than ever. He needs me now. And out of loyalty, for me, like, you know, I come from a day and age. I'm a very old school guy. In my philosophy, I'm very much like a Bill Watts minded kind of guy. And in that way, for me, a man is only as good as his word. You know, and if I can't trust you, whether it's personal relationships, whether it's love, romance, whether it's business, or whether it's friendship, but the number one thing that is the most important factor in any relationship is got to be reliability / loyalty. And for me, that's a big one right there. And so when push came to shove, and when it came down to nut cutting time, I turned down New Japan right to their face. I said, I'm sorry, I can't do this. And that was because I was loyal to the man that opened the door for me.
Did you have conversations further down the line with New Japan after that?
Nope. That was the one and only time that they came to bat, where I think it was, you know, there's sometimes lightning only strikes once. And I can live with that. I can live with that. That was my one opportunity. And I think I did the right thing. Because the thing is, I look at myself in the mirror and I can say that I stood by somebody who honestly needed me. They honestly needed me because they had positioned me in such a position that I was his top gaijin. I was his public face. I was the guy going out doing the interviews. I was the one on Samurai TV. I was the one in the press. They put me out there. So that's no light feat. And I remember I talked to somebody, I won't mention names, but somebody in the media afterwards. And I said that I mentioned this, that I turned down New Japan. And it was then that they told me that, to be honest, they wouldn't have known what to do with you anyway. He said, Tajiri understood your unique talent. He understood, you know, your old school approach, the classic wrestling style. You know, basically I'm kind of like cut out of the same cloth as, you know, the Nick Bockwinkel's, Ric Flair's, whatever have you. I'm not trying to toot my own horn. I'm just trying to, you know, paint a picture for you. But that I'm more so the classic type of Bret Hart kind of wrestler, you know, the Ted DiBiase style. I'm not the high spot guy. I'm not indie-rific in any way, shape, or form. I'm a very old school guy. And with that in mind, not every booker out there knows how to book somebody who brings that to the table. You need somebody who understands that skill set. And that's where this guy, one of the media members, he said that, the journalist, he said to me that Tajiri understood what you do. He understood exactly what you brought to the table. And he was able to book you in a way that brought out your strengths. And New Japan would not have understood what to do with you. So with that in mind, you know, that's maybe the solace in my plight.
I was going to ask about like some of your influences and who you modeled out there. You just mentioned some names, but any other kind of people that you studied and really tried to learn from? And I believe one of your trainers was Lance Storm as well. So a little bit about that.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what, the thing is in 1992, I got into the wrestling business in Rocky Mountain Pro Wrestling in Calgary, Alberta. So the thing was I was driving bottled water around town, and I had dropped out of art college, and I basically I'd been a wrestling fan all my life. And the thing is that I had brought bottled water one day in the summer of 92 to a taxi outfit in the industrial sector of Calgary. And then I looked on the walls, there's black and white pictures on the walls, framed pictures of Stampede wrestlers. And I asked the proprietor, I asked him, why do you have pictures of pro wrestlers on your walls? And he said, oh, because I used to be a manager, like a wrestling manager for Stu Hart, like for Stampede or what? He said, yeah. I said, what was your name? He said, Abu Wizal. He was the manager of Karachi Vice. And he ran a taxi outfit at that time. And I asked him at that point, I said, are there any wrestling promotions in Calgary currently? And he said, no, but there's a new one starting up this fall. And he said, if you're interested, I'll put you in contact with the promoters. And the promoters happen to be Steve Strong, or Steve DeSalvo, as he was known in the wrestling business back then. He worked for Carlos Colon out of Puerto Rico, and then also for Stu Hart and the International Wrestling out of Montreal. So, but then also another guy called Beef Wellington, who was Chris Benoit's old tag team partner, Stampede. These two guys, DeSalvo and Wellington, they were the promoters of this Rocky Mountain Pro Wrestling thing. So at that point, I reached out. I went to Steve DeSalvo's realty office. He was a realtor at the time in Calgary. And I just made my pitch. I said, my name's Mike. I'm an artist. The funny thing is I'm a graphic artist by trade. And I thought that I'd be drawing pictures for their weekly programs or something. But the thing is that that's not what he saw. That wasn't the unique inherent talent that he saw. What he heard was my voice. And the thing is, God gave me a great voice. So I'm actually one of the top B2B, B2C, and export voiceover speakers in all of Finland for Americanized English. I've spoken for all the big companies, the international, multinational corporations, whatnot. So it's like I have a really good CV, and I've got a really strong pedigree in voiceover. So like the one thing that God gave me is a great voice. So I was able to basically bring that to the table, and that's what they heard, that's what they saw. And I was the ring announcer and the TV commentator for Rocky Mountain 92 when I started, and that's where I became fast friends with guys like Chris Jericho, Lance Storm, Lenny St. Clair, who is AEW's Luther right now, et cetera, et cetera. So that's my background in pro wrestling.
Okay, I gotta ask.
Oh yeah,
Luther
go ahead,
questions.
Jeremy. Yeah.
Yes,
I know you're close with Luther. Yeah.
Luther's a pal. Any stories of I like to lovingly call him the Japanese deathmatch legend, Luther?
Well, Lenny's a character. I mean, to this day, Lenny always drops me a line every once in a while on Instagram or whatnot. But Lenny was a bit aloof back in the day. He was kind of like he was going to FMW, and he was away quite a bit. And every once in a while, he came back to Calgary, and there was a guy called Steve Gillespie who was his tag team partner. So I think it was Dr. Luther, and was it Dr. Hannibal? I think it was Dr. Hannibal was his tag partner. This other guy, what was his name? Steve Gillespie. Yeah. And so anyway, Lenny, I don't have any particular stories really that come to mind of Lenny back in the day, other than he was bleeding a lot.
Do you have any stories or any like early memories of some of these other like Canadian wrestlers that you knew back then, or that you may still have relationships with to this day? Guys like Chris Jericho. You mentioned Chris Benoit. I know you've Edge from back in the day. Like any other things coming to mind from like way back then with those guys?
Firebird Brett Como. I'm not sure if that name says anything to you, but he wrestled in Japan for a bit too, and he was a high flyer. There's another guy, my other coach, actually, Jason the Terrible, Steve DeSalvo. Steve, what am I talking about? Carl Moffat. So Jason the Terrible and Stampede. He also wrestled for New Japan, All Japan, Carlos Colon down Puerto Rico, et cetera, et cetera. He was actually supposed to get signed with the NWA when Flair took over as booker in '89. He was offered a spot, and then he had that huge that accident up in Banff, Alberta, where Davey Boy was in the ride too. flew out, damn near flew out the window, broke his neck. That's when they had that van load of wrestlers, and so Carl destroyed his knees. He was in the back seat, and his knees got crushed in the accident, and he never made it to the NWA.
Oh man, that's a bummer.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you. You mentioned your voice and all the voiceover work, commentary stuff you've done. I know you've done Finnish commentary for the WWE in the past. What is that experience like, and like how does that work with them? Like how does the process work when you're essentially translating matches, and you're the one who's, I mean, there's very few people that can probably do that type of job, like, understanding wrestling to the degree that you understand it, being able to translate the languages the way that you're able to do it, but also having like the clear voice and enunciations along with it. I mean, it feels like there's a lot that goes into it, and very few people probably have the skill set to actually pull that off.
Well, the thing is, we're not actually like overdubbing. That's the thing. It's not an overdub of Michael Cole or Jim Ross or whatever have you. What it is basically you calling it in Finnish on the fly, as Eurosport puts it out. So I was there for 6 years between 2009 and 2015 as the WWE commentator for Eurosport in Finland, in Finnish. And I did This Week in WWE and also WWE Vintage Collection. So those were the two broadcasts. Then I did it also in 2015 for a spell on Eurosport. I did Impact Wrestling as a commentator. But so like it's basically just the knowledge of the business and being able to flow with your verbatim, as you're calling it, in your own language. And then a lot of that, it's much like in Japan. If you watch the old, New Japan, All Japan tapes from like the early 90s and whatnot, they're calling the moves, drop kick, suplexo, right? So like, it's just, an O at the end of the actual like wrestling move, right? So that's, in Finnish, it's much the same. You could say, what a body slam. You actually use the word body slam in the context of you talking in Finnish, right? So it's not that difficult, to be honest with you, but you have to have the gift of gab. You have to be able to entertain those people and keep them invested for the time that you're on air.
Did you enjoy doing that type of work? And like, is this something you want to do in the future? Maybe not necessarily for WWE, but maybe for WWE or like any other like larger companies.
Well, the thing is, like, for me, talking is as easy as breathing. It's like I have been given that gift, and I like to utilize that gift. So I've done public speaking. I've done a ton of interviews, a ton of podcasts. I've done acting work on TV and also in the movies. So it's like I've been a translator for companies, like actual, like in negotiations. Like, for example, the FIBO. That's the FIBO, the expo. It's the top bodybuilding and fitness expo in all of Europe, in Germany, every year. So I've been a translator there for one of the companies in Finland, for example, sports nutrition and whatnot. So it's like, for me, speaking, it's the easiest thing in the world, and I don't shy away from it. It's just like a gift that you have. So I mean, of course, if I can use that to parlay and to make some money, more than happy.
We're coming up on an anniversary, a match you had against David Finlay, and I saw you post about this on Instagram. So I wanted to get your thoughts and memories from that match.
Say once again, sorry, it just cut out for a second. So which match?
Oh, against Finlay.
Oh, against Finlay. Yeah.
Yes.
It's a funny story because I was 38 at the time. And he was 51. He'd been wrestling for 37 years. And I remember walking into that match, and it's pretty.
I don't know if I got another phone call.
Yeah, get him back here in a second.
No, he's right back. That was quick.
It just dropped out there. Okay, we're back.
No problem at all. No problem.
Yeah. So Dave Finlay is held by and large in Europe unequivocally to be the quote unquote god of European wrestling. He is the upper echelon. You can talk about guys like Mark Rocco, Marty Jones, et cetera, Dynamite Kid. But if anybody would have to choose one over the others and one above all, Dave Finlay is the name which everybody bows down to. So Finlay is he is the blueprint for European wrestling in general. And so when I was able to face Finlay in 2011. Not only it was a main event at Corku and Hall for Smash, it was also, I was the Smash champion, the very first Smash champion in history, and that was going to be the night that I was going to drop the title. So the thing is that, you know, I remember talking to Finlay and before the match, and, you know, first of all, the guy's 51, so I asked him out of respect, I said, does anything hurt? You know, like, does your body hurt? He said, no, nothing. I'm made out of Teflon. Okay, well, that's good. Then I asked him, well, what would you like to do tonight? And he was like, oh, I don't like to go through much. But he said that it's when you don't know what's coming next is what makes it real. And I remember that to this day. It's something that I really do believe after going through that excursion, that trial by fire with Finlay. I remember that match was 15 minutes, 58 seconds long. It was voted match of the year by the leadership of Weekly Pro Wrestling Magazine in Japan for the Smash company. It was match of the year. Finlay took me to task. He basically ate my lunch for about 80% of the match. I got about 20 in. I lost. So it was an 80-20 split, and I still lost. But it was voted because of the fighting spirit, because of the story, because of the people involved. It was voted match of the year in the company. And the thing is that I remember feeling like I'm actually fighting for my life in here. This guy is like a rabid pit bull. He is not letting up. He's breathing down your neck the entire time. The thing about Finlay is that if you wrestle Finlay, as soon as he administers a maneuver to you, and let's say he goes for a pinfall, he is within arm's reach distance of grabbing you again immediately after that pinfall. He's never dallying. He's never straying away from his opponent. That's something that a lot of indie wrestlers don't get. They don't understand the difference between professional and indie. They are the idiosyncrasies. They're the small things. They're the details, the devil in the details. And Finlay taught me in the context of that match, just in wrestling him, not in what he told me, but in actually wrestling against him. What I learned was you stay on your opponent like a bad habit. You lean on them like you're the Black Plague. And that is what makes the spirit of the fight. And to this day, it's like I felt after the match that, oh shit, he took me to task for like 80% of the match. It was like he damn near squashed me. But that's not how the people saw it. The people saw it that I was fighting for my life. I was fighting from underneath as the champion against the god of Northern European wrestling. Or no, sorry, the god of European wrestling, because I was profiled as being the god of Northern European wrestling, but this was the god of European wrestling. So it's you know, a cut above.
What is it like being the guy? Because to my understanding, like basically, if you want to get booked or really do like anything in Finland in the world of wrestling, like you pretty much have to go through Starbuck. Is the way that I understand it. Like you're the contact for like a lot of this stuff. You're facilitating a lot of this stuff. What's it like having that responsibility? And what's it like? Yeah, what's it like being that guy that's like, you know, if you want to work in that part of the world, you pretty much like you're the guy to talk to.
Well, the thing is that, like, think of it this way. There's not a band in the world that wouldn't like to play with Metallica, to open up for Metallica, right? I think if you open up for Metallica, you kind of can say that, like, you're on the cusp of making it. You're on the cusp of, maybe you have made it already, or you're going to make it now. Now you're going to make it because this was your spotlight. You need an aggregator. In every facet of life, you need a promoter and you need an aggregator. You need somebody who's going to be the person to open the door for you. You know, there's a whole lot of bullshit to the thought that, oh, I'm just going to go knock down the doors, knock down the walls. I'm going to walk in there and I'm going to claim what's mine. No, bullshit, you're not. You're not going to do fuck all unless somebody opens the door for you. You need a promoter. You need a proponent who's going to put you over the edge. And for me to be like a power broker at this point in my life, and actually I was a power broker already in 2010 for Smash when I was wrestling for Tajiri. I was the foreign liaison. I was the guy who worked out all the contracts for the foreign talents that came in. With that in mind, you know, I've been a power. Say again.
Oh no, go ahead. There was a delay there.
There was a little bit of
Say
a
again?
lag.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
Yeah. So basically, like the way that I see it is that it's justified to be a power broker at this point in my life, given 32 years of my life to this industry, and having spent, I've basically I've become a student of the game and given my life to professional wrestling. As far as this is the only thing that I've ever loved. It's kind of like I always say in a joking manner. I say that pro wrestling is my wife and my mistress. They're both the same. I don't have, there's not another girl out there. It's my wife and my mistress. So wrestling for me is, I think it's deserved. I think the fact that I am the go-to guy in the Nordics. If somebody, I have people come to me for coaching all the way from Hong Kong. I have people come to me for coaching all the way in Finland here, from the US. I've had people, for example, the juniors powerlifting champion of Poland, Diana Strong. When she wanted to up her ante and really learn the craft, she came to me for coaching. She's the juniors national champion of Poland for powerlifting, right? So it's like the word gets around, and people know. There's this saying that you can fool some of the people some of the time, but you can't fool all the people all the time. And the cream always rises to the top. So I think that, like, if you have any real quality to you, that if you have any legitimacy to you, and if you have gravitas, as far as you are somebody within the industry, I think that people naturally will gravitate towards you, especially if you have a reputation. That if you handle yourself in a way that is, you could say, noble. And that's the one thing that I prided myself on as a businessman and as a promoter and as a power broker, is that my word is honestly as good as gold. And everybody who's ever worked for me knows this. There's a story out of Japan, All Japan Pro Wrestling, the giant Baba, Shohei Baba. He never had a written contract with any of the gaijin that worked for him, with Steve Williams, Stan Hansen, Bruiser Brody, whoever else, Terry Gordy. He never had written contracts. He had a handshake deal. And his handshake was as good as gold, down to the penny. And it's like, I want to be that guy. It's like when you think about the legacy that you leave behind, and when you think about in what tones do people speak of you when they utter your name out in the world, when they speak your name, in what tones do they speak of you? Now, of course, you're going to have the bullshitters, and you're going to have the people who are going to be, throwing trash your way and basically trying to sabotage your name. And I've had several of those in my life too. But overall, if you think about it, the vast majority, 80+% of the people that ever have my name on their lips, is purely positive. And the other ones, they're just jealous.
Who are some of the names, guys or girls, that people should be kind of like keeping their eye on that are coming up? Offended by the question.
So I don't want to name any names. We got him back almost. It's almost there. There we go.
There we go.
We got you back, Starbuck.
Okay. I don't know if you heard the last question, but I asked, like, who are some of the names, men or women, who
we fell out.
Yeah. I was asking, who are some of the names, men or women, who fans should kind of be keeping their eye on, that you've seen, that you were impressed with?
Are we still there? Oh, here we go. Coming back.
Probably a bit of a delay.
Yeah.
Oh
yeah, here we go. We're back.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now. Yeah. You
Okay.
guys fell out for about 20 seconds.
Okay. All right. It seems like there might be a delay, but we'll
Was it my question was that what was it? Yeah, so I was asking that was it out of this part of the world or out of Europe in general? Who the people that you should be watching? That was the question? But was it from this sector or from all of Europe?
Anywhere.
Oh, okay. Well, I would say there are several people that I would vouch for, and there are people that are coming up in the business now who are going to be stars in the future if they keep their heads on straight and they stay injury free. right? A lot of our game is so mental that, and you've got to realize you're swimming in a shark pool. There's so many people out there that are just willing to cut your head off the moment that you turn around. So if you can survive in these waters, I would say people like Artur Arter, so out of Estonia, he's a 19-year-old kid. He's going to be turning, I think, 20 at the end of this year. I just wrestled him last weekend, but he's the future. He's really got everything it takes, and he's young and he's hungry and he's gifted. I would say he's one of the guys. I would say Deanna Strong out of Poland. She's the juniors national powerlifting champion that I was mentioning, but she's young. She's incredibly fit. She's a great person, absolutely fantastic personality, a very genuine person. I would vouch for her. There's Alice Inc. out of Sweden, so the Scandinavian dragon. She's got a very unique look. She's tattooed from head to toe, and she is a martial arts expert. So she incorporates a lot of martial arts, a lot of kicks, and a lot of different like martial arts techniques into her wrestling. And she's got the fire. She's really got that like legitimate fire that you're looking for. On top of that, I would say guys that are already up there, like guys that I would recommend to anybody, guys like Fabio Ferrari out of Italy. I think Italy's #1 wrestler, Fabio Ferrari, hands down. I would say Red Scorpion out of Italy. I think he's very good too, mask guy. There's one of my friends who he's now working in Mexico, but he's Russian. He was living in Moscow until the situation got a hand now with the Ukraine, but he moved to Mexico. His name is Ivan Rokov. R-O-K-O-V, Rokov. He used to wrestle under Ivan Markov. If you know Natalia Markova of NWA, that's her former ex-husband. So I would say on top of that, people to look out for. There's several. There's guys in Finland too, like for example, we got a guy called Backbreaker Dylan Broda. He's like, if you think of the classic Memphis style walk and talk types of heels, he's the walk and talk prototype. And there's not many people in our industry today who, because it's so indie-rific minded now, the pro wrestling industry, who can do the walk and talk, where you can get heat just by basically narrating your own match to the audience, and you're just talking crap. And he's able to do that to a degree that very few are able to do.
I have a name that I know has worked for Slam, and I wanted to get your thoughts on him. He's from the United States, and his name is Vinny Pacifico. He sent me a DM the other day. We stay in touch.
Vinny.
Yes, and I told him that I was going to be interviewing you with Jeremy today, and his response was, "Let's fucking go. I love him." So that's to your point. People loving, doing business with you. And any thoughts on Vinny?
Yeah, Vinny's a great guy. The thing is that, not to ruffle anybody's feathers, but, I'm a believer in Jesus Christ. So I have personal faith in Christ as Lord and Savior. And so does Vinny. Vinny is a Christian man. It's almost like, there are things that unite us in life. Sometimes it's like myself and Chris Jericho back in the day. We're both massive heavy metal fans. We like the same bands like Halloween and Gamma Ray and things like that, German heavy metal bands. That's one thing that brought about a kinship between Jericho and myself. But with Vinny, I think that when Vinny was here, I think I told Vinny things from the wrestling, how could you say, the well of knowledge of being in the industry for over 3 decades that he had not heard from anybody else. I think that I told him things and educated him in a way to some degree where he was able to say that I came out of Finland as a better man because of being able to get to know Starbuck. And I really believe that's the case, which is why I believe that we have a certain kinship, I would say, with Vinny. And I think Vinny's a great guy. I think he's a hell of a nice guy. He's got a really good heart. And there's not many people in our industry today there that are good wrestlers and good people at the same time. But Vinny Pacifico is a good man and a good wrestler.
I'm gonna send him this message right now that you put him over. Luther says hi, by the way. I messaged him and he said to say
All right.
I said hello.
All right, tell Lenny that keep being the butler.
Vinny immediately just messaged me back. He said, I love him to death. And then he asked what you said. I'm not going to transcribe the whole thing. Oh, wait, hold on. Now we might get stories. So Vinny says that I'm batshit crazy and was drunk in his house. Now, what is this all about?
What did he say?
He said, what did he say? And then he said,
say
that I'm batshit crazy and was drunk in his house. LOL.
No, I didn't say that. No. Actually, Vinny went to sauna for the first, he actually went to a real Finnish sauna for the first time when he was at our cottage. So my wife and I, we have a cottage by the seaside, by the Baltic Sea. And we took Vinny and his wife out there. Actually, Vinny was here with his wife, and they had their honeymoon at the same time that Vinny was wrestling in Europe during the summer, right? So we took them out to our cottage and treated them to a nice time, and they got to swim in the Baltic Sea and to actually enjoy the Finnish sauna experience. It's not the same as going to Gold's Gym in the U.S. and going to the sauna there. Trust me, it's not the same thing at all. So Vinny, he got into the ocean, or not the ocean, the sea, and he was literally screaming his head off because of the seaweed touching his feet, right? It's like, it's like he's freaking out because it's almost like tentacles grabbing at your feet. But I thought it was hilarious.
Oh, Vinny is a good dude. I feel like he wants to pop on and say hello. So maybe I'll bring him on here in a second. I did want to ask.
All right.
I did want to ask about your kind of rock career and sort of how that got started and comparisons to wrestling.
Well, the thing is that, so I've often said that the good Lord gives all of us gifts, and you got to recognize what your inherent talent is, because, we all are given something. Some of us are given more than others, and of course, there's more responsibility for those of us who are given more. So, but I was given several artistic talents. So I have the ability to create poetry and prose. So basically lyrics. I'm very good at that. I'm very adept. I can write. I'm very good at actually just writing, whether it's I could be a journalist, or I could, I wrote my own life story. So Crowbar Press out of the US put out my book. It was in 2017. It's called Battleground Valhalla. I didn't have a ghostwriter. I wrote it myself. I wrote the entire book cover to cover myself. Whether I'm a graphic artist. So for Sony Music, I created the characters, the incarnations, not the concept, but the characters themselves. I created for this children's heavy metal band called Heavy Saurus. So it's like dinosaurs that play heavy metal. And it's a huge hit in Finland, and also I think in Spain. It's been licensed to, I think, Spain, or was it Portugal? But so basically I've been given several artistic capacities and talents to parlay, and I utilize all of those, and one of them is music. So I'm able to, I have a voice that I can actually sing with, so which is great. I'm a baritone, which means that I'm in the same vocal range as guys like Billy Idol and James Hetfield. So I'm not the Rob Halford high, the screecher. I can't do that. I can't hit the high notes, but I can do the mid-range really well. And I got the raspy voice, kind of like the whiskey-soaked raspy voice. So I've got two bands, one called Stoner Kings, and which is like really heavy riff-oriented, like metallic rock, like stoner type of metal. And then I have another band called Crossfire. That's Crossfyre. We actually did a cover of Michael Hayes' Bad Street USA, which Miranda Gordy, Terry Gordy's daughter, uses to this day as her ring entrance music. She uses our version of Bad Street.
Very cool. Very cool. Sorry, but there's a little bit of delay in the video between you and us. So if there's a little bit of a pause, that's the reason that's happening.
Yeah, that's all right.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah.
What are some of like your future goals, like whether it's in wrestling or like any other form of entertainment or anything else that you're involved in? Because obviously you've been around for a long time now. You've done a lot of stuff. You've accomplished a lot. Like what do you feel like is left on the horizon for all the stuff that you got going on?
Well, you know, the thing is, I believe that we're here for a very short period of time. I think that, you know, when you break down life, you think of the last 10 years of your life as 2014, how quickly 10 years has gone by. It's ridiculous. So life is gone in the flash of an eye, or the bat of an eyelash. So with that in mind, it's like, I want to make the most of the time that I have. I want to keep active in my wrestling career for as long as I can, because it's a personal thing where if I'm able now at the age of 51, I'm the same age right now that Dave Finlay was when he took the Smash title off of me in 2011 in Tokyo. And he was in so far superior condition as compared to myself back then, that it's like I said to myself that at his age, I want to be able to do what he does. And I can still go. I can still have half-hour matches, you know, easily at the age of 51. I can still do the job. I can put out better matches than men half my age. So with that in mind, I want to stay active as long as I can, because for me to be able to say as the years go on that I can do extraordinary things. Professional wrestling is an extraordinary thing. It really is. And for me to be able to do this at a high level, I've had some of the best matches of my career now in the last 2 years. You know, and you got to consider I'm 51 years old right now. I had some of you can see them on Triller TV, by the way. So Slam Wrestling Finland, we're on Fight TV, Triller TV, and you can find us there. You can see some of my matches that I'm talking about right now. And it's like they'll stand up against anybody out there. I don't care if you talk about some of the older legends like the Bret the Hitman Harts, or you're talking about, you know, the Dick Murdochs, or you're talking about the Four Horsemen, or you're talking about just really solid old school wrestling. If you're talking about, you know, this type of wrestling, it'll stand up. My matches will stand up with anybody. I dare say that. So I want to keep doing this as long as I can by the grace of God, because for me, I want to have an extraordinary life. So that's one thing. But then on top of that, I want to grow a business. There was somebody from the U.S., and I won't name any names, but somebody who used to be in the NXT, actually the Florida system before NXT, so Florida Championship Wrestling, FCW. He was in the training school back in the day, and then he had to quit due to injury. And he told me that since he knows so many people in the business, he said that, dude, you could be the Vince McMahon of Europe. I mean, I know the name Vince now is kind of a no-no, but you get the gist. You get the idea of what he was saying. And I think that that's something that it kind of tickles my fancy in a way that I want to grow my business. I'm already a power broker, but I want to grow. All of us as human beings, we want to grow. The moment that you stop growing is the moment that you die. So I want to grow my business, and I want to expand the Slam name across Europe. And I think we have an alternative to offer the wrestling community, because everything now, by and large, is monkey see, monkey do, indie-rific. It's AW Light. And we are a throwback to the way that wrestling used to be. If you like your wrestling the way that you remember classic wrestling being, the way that it was presented back in the day, I think that you'll like Slam Wrestling Finland. I think you should check it out. Go to Triller TV, check it out. But that's what I want to grow. I want to keep the old school alive. And there's not many companies out there that are keeping the old school values and the old school traditions, the old school way of doing business alive. So if I can do that, by the grace of God, I'm going to keep doing that as long as I can.
I want to circle back to what we almost opened with this show, with the Ribera jacket. So everyone talks about the lore and the history of Ribera, but what I always like to know is, what is the food review of Ribera?
Well, so I got married for the second time in my life now, last September. So it was 2023, September 9th of 23. And my wife and I, we haven't had a chance to have our honeymoon until now. So we went to Japan. We were there for 10 days. And part of that was me wrestling at the end of the tour, the end of that period on the 28th of September. And the initial part of that trip was a honeymoon. And one of the things was that I wanted to take my wife out to see and to experience real Japanese culture. So real sushi, not the rotary table sushi, but the real sushi, right? And then I wanted to take her to Ribera, because Ribera is one of the absolute, it's one of the meccas for pro wrestling, that if you're in the pro wrestling industry, you've got to go to Ribera if you're ever in Japan. So she went to Ribera with me, and she says she's never in her life had steak that is so good as I think it was the ribeye. I think she had the ribeye. But the way that they had prepared the steak, and the way that, like the entire, and it's not fancy. It's not pilfered with different spices and herbs and stuff like that. It's pretty much like they just know how to prepare steak. And she's very particular about her culinary, experiences. She's a fine diner. She loves fine dining. And she said best steak she's ever had in her life at Ribera. So yeah, Ribera it's the real deal. It really is. It's not overrated. It's not a legend. Well, it's a legend, yes, but it's not a facetious legend. Ribera is the real thing.
I've got kind of a random question for you, and I don't know if you've ever been asked this, or this is like an annoying question to answer. To be honest, I really don't know. Have you ever had any issues, like legally or anything, from the Starbucks chain, like the coffee chain, using the name Starbuck?
No. Here's the funny thing. Let me tell you guys a story. So they, many years ago, they used to ask me this question. Why did you name yourself after a coffee chain? I said, I didn't. I was here before Starbucks ever came to Finland. Now, initially, so I have this band called Stoner Kings. And I gave all of us in the band, back in 2000 when I started the band, I gave us artist names. So, like, Alice Cooper is not the guy's real name. You know that, right? Nikki Sixx is not his real name. Blackie Lawless of Wasp, that's not his real name. You guys realize this, right? So in popular music and in different artistic environments, we have artist names. And I chose Starbuck because it was a throwback, because I always felt like I never belonged to the modern day and age, like, I don't know what you guys believe, but I just simply don't believe that men can give birth. So nowadays they tell us that men can actually give birth, and I have a really hard time believing that because of biology. So I'm one of these old school guys. I really am, where I believe, that black is black and white is white and water is wet and the sky is blue. So with that in mind, I never felt like I belonged to the modern way, the modern day and age of like the way that society has gone. So when I formulated this band Stoner Kings in 2000, I wanted to use artist names that would kind of like rock the boat a bit, and make people think, just make them think, like, why would they call themselves that? Or like, why does this guy have this name? And I thought of Battlestar Galactica and Lieutenant Starbuck, Gregory Peck, back in the day, Gregory Peck in the early 80s. But as time went on, I capitalized the B. So it's one word, Starbuck, but I capitalized the letter B, and I gave it a new meaning and a new twist. And I said, well, so when people would ask, well, why'd you name yourself after a coffee shop? I said, I didn't. Star is self-explanatory. Star, superstar, you're somebody. Buck is Texas, or it's Southern slang for real man. Oh, that guy's a buck, right? Starbuck, that's what it is. That's what it is. And, wrestling is not an endeavor, neither is rock and roll, where you got to shy away and kind of like be coy about things. You can't do it, right? It's in your face. It's very much in your face. And with that in mind, I think it fits me to a T, because I became what I could say the what the meaning that I gave to Starbuck is what I became. No longer the Gregory Peck homage. I became Star, capital Buck, B, Buck, right? So Star / real man, stud. That guy's a stud. So that's what I try to live up to. And so when they say the rebel Starbuck, well, what makes you the rebel? Well, it's because I don't believe all the modern hoo-ha. I just don't believe it. I'm sorry. It's and I don't fit into the modern infrastructure of the way that society thinks. You know, you think of Lynyrd Skynyrd, and back in 2008, 2009, I think they had this album called God and Guns, and there's a song called Simple Life. And you got to check the song out because they made a music video to it. There's a lyric, the chorus line goes, I like the simple life, the way it used to be. We left our doors wide open. We didn't need no key. I've been all around the world, seeing all there is to see, but I'd give all I have for one more day of how it used to be.
You have a fantastic, the Southern accent there was amazing. The final thing I have is something we ask everybody, and it is, what is the coolest thing in your room?
In my room, oh geez. So I have a workspace downstairs, and we live in this 3-story house, and I happen to be in the living room or the dining room right now, just doing this interview with you guys. But the coolest thing in my personal workspace, I would say my office. I think the coolest thing I have there is, that's a real tough one. It might be the Slam Championship title. It might be that because it represents the way that wrestling used to be. It's the kind of wrestling that I grew up on. It's the kind of wrestling that I love. It's the kind of wrestling that I teach. So there's a lot of different coaches around Europe and around the world. But if you want to learn wrestling the way that is the credible, old school fashion way, there's not many places you can go anymore. There's Michael Kovac out of Austria for the EWA, for was it the European Wrestling Association? And then there's myself. And maybe Eric Isaacson out of Norway. That's it. We're the last of a dying breed. So the Slam Championship represents classic traditional wrestling, which is what so many people, there's so many wrestling fans today, they're middle-aged and they remember what wrestling used to be like, and they have these fond memories of Flair and Funk. They have these fond memories of the Road Warriors. They have these really nostalgic memories of Mr. Perfect and the Hitman, right? And that's what I think Slam Wrestling and the title itself in spirit represents. So maybe possibly the coolest thing in my room right now is that Slam Championship.
I love it. I love it. Well, as we kind of wrap up here, I know that was pretty much a great advertisement in itself right there for Slam Wrestling and everything you got going on. But please, like, plug anything you'd like to. Please let people know where to find you and really anything else you got going on that you want people to know about.
If you'd like to follow Slam Wrestling and really honestly, like, bite into an alternative for, you know, the sports-based presentation, and we really are. We're different. Everybody who ever comes here from abroad says that you guys, you're different. There's something different about Slam Wrestling. So all of our social media, you can find us at /SlamWres. That's /SlamWres. You can find us on TikTok, on Instagram, on Facebook. You can find us on X, Twitter, whatever have you, and also on Reddit. So in addition to that, slamwres.com. That's our website. You can find us there. And don't forget, you got to follow us on Triller TV. So the largest sports streaming network in the world, over 9 million subscribers. If you're not one of them, you should be one now. Get 1 week free if you sign up today. So go ahead, do it. You lose nothing. And you can find Slam Wrestling there. We've got a new event that's going to be upped at just, I think, it's the middle part of this month. It's going to be Helsinki Metal Festival's Helsinki Metal Mayhem. And it's going to be a 2-hour special. So I believe if you guys want to have something different, We're not going to give you the Poison Ranas. We're not going to give you the Tope Con Hilos. We're not going to give you the Canadian Destroyers. We're going to give you wrestling the way that you remember it. So follow us. You won't be let down. Put it that way. You'll be happy that you did.
There you go. Rebel Starbuck, we appreciate you joining us here. Again, the links are below, everybody. You can follow Rebel Starbuck. You can follow Slam Wrestling. Check out all you need to check out. Again, thank you so much for joining us here today.
Hey, guys, thank you so much for this opportunity, and thank you for your time. I really appreciate this, and if you'd like to do this again sometime, I'd be more than happy to accommodate you. God bless you, and thank you, everybody.
We appreciate it. And guys, we'll be right back here on the Spotlight. We're back. Big thank you to Rebel Starbuck for joining us here on the Creator Spotlight. Really fun interview. Hope everybody enjoyed that. Again, guys, check out the links below. You can follow him on social media. Check out Slam Wrestling, doing all the great work he's doing over there in Finland. That'll do it for us today here on the Spotlight. We'll be back next week talking all the things happening in the world of pro wrestling. You can catch me tomorrow at 10 a.m. Eastern on In the Weeds. That's myself and Joel Pearl. That's every Monday, Wednesday, Friday here on Fightful Overbooked, 10 a.m. Eastern. Check out Rob and Maggie coexisting tomorrow, 3 p.m. Eastern, right here on Fightful Overbooked, and everything else we got going on here on the channel. FightfulOverbooked.com. We appreciate it, everybody. Leave a thumbs up on the video. Leave us a nice review on iTunes. Give us 5 stars, all that fun stuff. We'll talk to everybody next week. Bye, everyone.